Hello, welcome to this Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Age of Sigmar Mondays with my co-hosts. What a gorgeous trio of gentlemen. Nathan Prescott, how are you?
Hello, good evening. I'm all right. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for asking. Dan, unsupervised. How are you?
I'm good. You know what? I'm gonna say I'm a full house, but not necessarily a high cards. I'm gonna say I'm maybe 2s and 7s. That's how I am right now.
That's very, very good. James Powell. James, how are you?
I have no idea what that means, so I'll be a royal flush.
I think that's what the Queen does.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone does it for her.
So, hello everyone, welcome to the show. If you're joining us live, thank you very much. The subject of today's show is our favourite rules in Age of Sigmar. Now, we're going to do something a bit different today. We're going to try it out to what we normally do, which is where we'll do a very small news section, and then we're going to go on with the main subject of the show. We normally will preamble for anywhere between 10 to 1 hour 45 minutes before the main subject of the show. So we're going to do that at the end, at which point we will also take questions from the chat. But we're going to mainly jump in, if that's okay. But has anyone got anything hot they need to bring up right now before we get on with the news?
Nope.
Did you know that? No, I got nothing. I was just gonna throw something out there.
Time.
The plural of platypus is not platypi.
Okay.
There you go. Just hot facts from Australia.
Okay. The only thing I can tell you is earlier on, I thought I saw a bacon tree, but it turned out not to be a bacon tree, it was a hambush. So sorry, Nathan. I'm so sorry. And everyone in the Twitch chat, Johnny Eyebrows, Chris, T-Man Cash, Swaggy Shadow, I hope you're well. Yes, I think 2 questions, 2 bits of news. We're going to talk about achievements, and then we're going to talk about, James, where are our undergargants? Yeah? Where are our...
That's
where are our...
for later in the show. This is news. They're not
Okay,
news.
don't let him get away with that. Later on, we're coming back to the undergargants. We need those. They're really important. Also, congratulations, Speckles, in the chat for testing negative for coronavirus, but positive for, that face. And...
I was like, what? Where? How subtle is he going to go with this? And I'm glad that you went with a 7 horses head in the bed level of subtlety, and that's good. That's good.
I appreciate that. So the bit of news before I get on is have you guys checked out? I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway for the audience. Have you guys checked out the new achievements thing, which is super cool?
I have not,
No.
and I love achievements.
Okay.
I don't get enough praise in my regular life. I wasn't hugged enough as a child. So achievement hunting is the best way for me to show that I have value and worth in this world.
So metabreakers.com is a website run by JP Gannis, who is a smart little fella he's probably quite tall actually, but a smart fella who does stuff, with numbers. It's it's too many websites for me, I won't lie to you. It's a lot. But he has done a very new cool thing where, very much like World of Warcraft or Xbox or PlayStation or any of the computer games that you normally play, what you're able to do is you're able to log on there, make an account, and log your achievements that you do at events. So let's say if there's an army that's not particularly good, there's like an underperformer achievement where you've taken a terrible army and you've done well with it in an event. And it gives you little graphic achievement tokens. Yeah,
What's it called?
Metabreakers.com.
Okay.
But it's very, very, very cool. It's super sweet. You guys should check it out. It's hello to Strength Hammer in the chat. I hope you're well. How graphic?
So, how many of those achievements have you got?
I haven't logged into it yet. I just saw it and thought it was cool. I haven't.
You have to do it. It has to be done in tournament type setting, does it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's very, very fun, and you guys should go check it out. Especially. Go on, Dan.
I put it in wrong. I need to hear it again.
No, I've got it. Hang on, I'll put it in the chat for everyone.
Okay. Let's do that.
I'm not good.
It's not that
I'm not
easy.
good with words.
There's too many websites.
Sigmulator.com is what it
That's
actually
it.
is.
So it's ageofsigmulator.com, Metabreakers Achievement Rankings HTML is what it is. www. Long-time viewer, first-time caller, Hydro Homie checking in. Thanks, Harry266. What up? However, yeah, so you can go on there and you can you can have cool little achievements. Do you not think that's pretty fun? I think that's pretty fun. Thanks to Harrylicious for subscribing to the Honest Wargamer Twitch chat, which you should all do. Any thoughts on it at all?
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just having a little nose. It's pretty cool.
I like that it opens with presentation is not a strong point for this website. that you know what? I'm like, just set the bar at an achievable level of expectation, and I dig that. I am 100% going to commit hard to this website.
Okay,
though.
I found myself.
You're on
I
it.
don't have an account.
Right.
It's been made from my history of events.
Yeah.
Back to 2009. The achievements are cool. It tells me what I achieved and when I achieved it.
What have you achieved?
Has
so
it
I've
been
only got-
spying on us and taking our shit and making
Yeah.
things happen?
So
Nathan
I've
is
only got-
spying on us.
I'm in here.
Two in there. So I've got one from Sheffield Slaughter, which was Win a Game of Slave to Darkness.
Congratulations.
I've got some others. Play a C-tier army at an Age of Sigmar event, which was playing Cities of Sigmar in November 2019. And play a D-tier faction at an Age of Sigmar event, which was Slaves to Darkness at Sheffield Slaughter 2020.
Well done. Well done.
But they're cool. The pictures are cool. I like the fact it's stamped my jazz with where I
Oh
did
my
it.
gosh, I'm going to request
Nathan,
so many
you're
of-
10th.
I'm 10th. And what? What is going on?
Nathan, you're 10th. There's a
Uh,
rankings and you're 10th. Congratulations.
11th.
11th now.
Oh, 11th. Sorry.
Shocking.
Sorry.
Someone's quickly inputting all theirs while we're doing it to the higher.
Yeah, just cracking it up.
Coming the end of the show. He's
Sorry,
gone.
Nathan, you're 11th. Sorry. You need to do a couple.
Hayden Walker from Australia, Elf Bro, is 18th. Good job.
Good job. Yeah. It's
Oh, wow.
it's an international rankings for people who won't necessarily like top table it all the time. I think isn't Benjamin Saffer first? Isn't he number one?
No, it depends. Nathan, you're top 10 in the UK. You are 10th in the UK.
Congrats,
In
Nathan.
the
Well done.
world, you're 11th.
Okay,
Yeah.
see, I'm 100% not now. I'm going like this is thank you. This has changed how when tournaments go back, I'm going back to tournaments, and it's no longer for wins or anything. It's to tick off achievements. This is how I prove my worth to the world and why I'm allowed to continue breathing.
Yeah,
We could
it's
have
brilliant.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm not
Yeah,
a waste of space.
It's my favorite bit is it's really designed for people who react like Nathan. They're like, "Wait, I'm on a website." And can we all be? Thank you, Gitley, in the chat. Can we all be jealous of John Connolly, of course, because he's 69th, and that is, of course, the best position to be in on the table.
Always important.
Always important. All right, let's get on with. There's a cool website. Go check it out. We'll include it in the show notes, and it's brilliant. So we're gonna.
Is
crack on
that
with
another achievement? And then as soon as you come 69th, you achieve another achievement, and then you move off of 69th.
It should be one. Let's be
Yeah.
real. Yeah, that's.
I
Speckle,
69th once.
Speckles, you're 210th. Well done. I'm really proud of you.
Wow.
Okay, should we get on with the main subject of the show today, everyone? So after the Gargant show last week, which, let's be honest, wasn't the most upbeat show in the world because I particularly wasn't impressed by them. Nathan, have you had any thoughts since last week on the Gargants? James, Dan, but Nathan specifically?
Well, yeah, I had a look at the rules again.
That would
And-
help.
Yeah, I think that, well, for the first time, I have a feeling they'll do all right. I don't think they're. Yeah, I don't think.
You don't think they're as bad as I thought?
I do think the flavor. I can see what you were saying. You were wanting a certain type of flavor, and they probably don't play the way you would expect the flavor of the Gargant army to be.
Are you saying that they
But
only had vanilla?
Yeah. So, but I do suspect that there will be some players that will be able to win some games and do fairly well in tournaments. So, Yeah, I think there'll be some scenarios that they'll be pretty really well. They'll really perform well at, and then there's going to be somewhere they just won't stand a chance. I mean, I think Take and Hold is going to be a tough one for them, and probably Scorched Earth. But yeah, some of them, like Focal Points, they'll be having a great time.
Yeah. Like, I see the objective game and kicking the stuff onto objectives is good, but I just don't see how you don't just kill the man crushers and then just like there's like one or two gargants. They're like, we're on these two objectives. You're like, fucking fair play to you, lad. Like, I'm really proud of you. Like, you stand on those two super well for maybe up to 3 turns. But anyway, yes, I agree with you.
Well,
I agree with you that
I
there
think
might be
you've
some
got to
standing
stand-
around lists. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lots of standing around, which is probably not, like I said, probably not the flavour you wanted out of a giant army. You probably want them to be a bit more dangerous. These are less dangerous and more nicking shit.
Agreed. Dan, James, any thoughts since last week?
Look, the one thing I would like to say, I listened back. The one thing I'd like to say is I'm excited to play them and play against them because maybe there's some stuff in there that wasn't 100% like right, or we missed gaps. But honestly, my opinion of the Battle Tome as a tournament thing didn't change.
Yeah. I mean, I think when they're on objectives, it's going to be really hard to score against them. And if you bear in mind, if you win the objective game for 2.5 turns, then you can't get beaten, so you got 2.5 turns to
You've got 2.5 turns to live. You basically anyway, I could go on about it all day. James, you got any thoughts about it?
Not really, I don't think. I think they'll be really exciting to see. I've seen the models in photo now, and I don't think they're as big as I thought they were going to be. But other than that, not a lot.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with what you guys were saying last week. I'm less impressed by the range on the Mega Gargants, that's for sure.
Which is a bit of a shame. Can I say thank you to Harrylicious for Greamer for subscribing? Big love to you. For subscribing to the show. Well, because of that, I didn't want people to think that everything was negative all the time. Yeah? So, as much as I think that they're absolute toss, and I would like to reaffirm that I still think, with everything said this week, all over the internet, that I still think that they fucking suck balls. We would talk about all the things that we do like in Age of Sigmar, specifically the rules that we liked, because that's one of the things. We obviously talk about competitive stuff on the show. That's kind of the purpose of the show. Although, I would like to throw us back to some very fun shows like the Love Rat and when we decided the best charity in Age of Sigmar. All great shows. All great shows. But for me...
Great show, great guy.
Yeah, great show, great guy. The thing that joneses me about playing war games is the rules. I like rules where I think the Gargants were lacking in flavorful rules or the way that they should play. I think in some cases we're going to talk about rules that do kind of play the way we expect armies to play, but also just fun stuff that's fun in the game and creates. We've talked a lot about NPE before, but we've never talked about the other thing: positive player experience, PPE. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, the world needs loads of PPE.
That's already an acronym, but we'll go with it. We'll steal that acronym and people will get really confused.
Yeah, so we're now big PP. Thank you very much, Tom, in the chat. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for big PP, big positive player experience. There's always been a lack of PPE in the UK. That's real. So I've asked my show hosts to talk about their favourite Age of Sigmar rules. I've given them some homework of 5. Nathan was unsure on that memo. He didn't get the memo, so I'm not sure.
Can't count to be on 2, so it's fine.
Yeah, I actually couldn't even pick 5. I think I did 16.
Don't tell me you failed 10.
No, I did 16. There's so many. So hopefully you guys nail it, and I can tick them off. So who'd like to pick their first one? Who wants to be the first with? James. What is
first?
Is this your favourite rule or 1 of 5? Are you going to go from 5 to 1?
Because when we talked about it earlier, one of the things that I thought was I was like, I've got to pick rules. I've got to go through and I've got to read. And then I picked one, and then it just turned into a spiral. And then I was like, oh, 5 was easy. Like,
Mm.
there's so many I like. So what I've kind of chosen is probably, let me just check. Yeah, there is probably 2 serious ones I like because I think they are good in-game rules.
Okay.
And then there are 3 that I chose because I just think they're great. Like,
Okay.
they're probably not the best rules, but they're great.
So have you gone for good because they're like good as in likely to win, or good because they're fun?
I guess they're a mix.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right, go for it. So what's the first one? I'm excited.
I'm going to start with my first one,
Yeah.
which is a serious one.
Ooh.
So it is
Drum roll.
Monstrous Revelation. Can anyone tell me where that's from?
No, I cannot.
Isn't that what you see when you're put into a gargant's pants?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
A monstrous
but
revelation.
Also,
Yeah.
Marathi's transformation rule.
That's
Mm.
interesting. So the way she goes from little to big.
Yeah, and I know I've probably talked about it on the show before, but I still think how many years? It must be 3-4 years. I think 3 years at least since that model came out.
Yeah.
I think it's still one of my favorite rules in the game.
Okay, that's amazing. What, you just like it when she does? Have you got Marathi, or have you just played against?
So I played Marathi the week after she came out at what I thought was a Throne of Skulls doubles event at Warhammer World that actually ended up being a doubles GT heat that I didn't realise I'd signed up for.
Nice.
So when I got there and they told me I needed to write a list, I wrote it on a napkin from Bugman's.
That's actually how I put all my lists in.
Excellent. But I just think so I played her that weekend. So I'd sat she was in it because I wanted to use her and I thought it was a fun event. So there wasn't much else in a 1,000-point list. But I just think it's just even playing it then, and when I see someone put a Marathi in front of me on a table now, I'm just like, oh, it's just so exciting. So do you want me to read the rule? Shall I read the rule?
Yeah. Please do.
Do you want the fluff?
I would like the whole kit and caboodle. Give it me all.
Okay. Monstrous Revelation.
Yeah.
Marathi's Shadow Queen model is not set up on the battlefield at the start of the battle. Instead, it is set up when Marathi, High Oracle of Cain, uses Monstrous Transformation, or the Truth Revealed ability. When Marathi transforms, her High Oracle of Cain model is removed from the battlefield, and her Shadow Queen model is set up on the spot where she was standing before her transformation. Her Shadow Queen model can only be set up within 3 inches of an enemy unit if her High Oracle of Cain model was within 3 inches of that unit before her transformation.
Okay.
There is insufficient room to place Marathi where she was standing. Simply place the model as close as possible to the spot where there is sufficient room. If after her Shadow Queen model has been set up, Marathi is more than 14 inches away from the spot where she was standing before her transformation, she cannot move in the following movement phase. Forgot that bit.
No, it's important. Because you can surround. But what you can do is you can surround her base, so when she transforms, you get 14 inches of free movement, basically.
Yeah. Any wounds allocated to Marathi in her High Oracle of Cain form prior to her transformation are carried over to her Shadow Queen form and then doubled. For example, if 3 wounds had been allocated to Marathi in a High Oracle of Cain form before she transformed, she would be set up in her Shadow Queen form with 6 wounds already allocated to her.
So what is it you like about the rule?
I think for me, there's certain things that get added to the game that make you think more than others. And I just think having played this or Marathi in an army and played against her in armies, I just think she suddenly brings a really interesting. So if you've got a Maw Crusher rambling across the board at you and you're like, that's going to do a load of damage, so you're like, cool, here's a good unit, so here's my Celestant Prime, I throw him in, I do all his attacks, I should hopefully kill it.
Yeah.
I'm going to commit. Whereas I think the Marathi one's really interesting because it's like, well, I need to do 3 wounds because I needed to die, but I don't want to commit the Celestant Prime because he's going to do 3 damage once and then die. And I just think, for me, when we played that event, I just thought she was great fun. She had the double range. So in the first game, I didn't even transform her. She was just a badass wizard killing things with spells. In the second game, we played the guys that actually won the whole event, and they spent 35 minutes setting up because they were so keen on winning. Ignored Marathi for 2 turns, and I was like, cool, transformer, there's your minor victory.
Did you? Can I ask if you ever like bought some like wizard smoke, and like when you transformed it, like and then like swapped them out?
Do you know what? Maybe next time, if I ever use her again, I'll buy a big bag of glitter, throw it at my opponent, and then put her out. And just glitter everywhere.
It's exactly. That's what I thought you'd like. I thought you were going to say like it reminds me of playing Pokemon and watching something Digivolve. Out my Beyblade.
That would be a super serious one for me. I think it's one of those rules that every time I see it used, I've used it myself, or even walk past a table, or we've commentated on an event. When you watch a transform, I'm just like, it's ace. It's just such a good rule. And there's a little part of me that's dreading when this new book comes out that they'll have taken it away, because I just think it's so good.
Oh, okay.
Like whoever wrote that rule, I'd give them a raise.
Well, Twitch chat, give us an out of 10 for James's rule. How much you'd love it. It's a cool rule, definitely. I've got a Marathi one as well, so I might talk about that in a minute. Dan, what have you got for a favourite rule?
All right, so I'm going to go from bottomest to toppest, because I feel like that's, if you start at the top, it's everybody knows who's won, and it's a bit boring. So I'm going to start at the bottom with destruction. Starting at the bottom of the meta and the bottom of the rules.
Go on, Nathan, get him.
And I'm going with destructive bulk. Because and actually, let me just say, when I was choosing my rules, I went for a balance. I was like, cool, how does the rule fit inside of the army? As in, like, thematically, how does the rule play on the table? And then how balanced is the rule for both players? Like, can both players enjoy this rule, right? Like, so like story, gameplay, and also not being pants on head stupid. And destructive bulk for me is a really lovely balance of those. You've got like the image of a Maw Crusher slamming into something and doing tons of damage. Absolutely perfect. But then the idea that it minces whatever it hits and doesn't slow down and just steamrolls into the next. If there is any model in the game that should do that, 100% I see that. The Maw Crushers look like, I don't know those who ever played Gears of War, but the Berserkers, the big, terrifying, screeching death things that just run at you and slam into walls and punch everything to death. And so for me, I dig it because it's a cool rule. It's anyone that has a Maw Crusher, you can see them visibly get like a little bit emotionally and possibly physically excited whenever they're about to charge, because it's like, oh, he's going to do the thing. And I think it's amazing. That's why I went with destructive bulk. And that
does mortal wounds on the charge, doesn't it? You charge,
yes.
You do a bunch of mortal wounds, and then if you kill something, you get to charge again.
Yeah, if you kill everything, if there's nothing within 3 inches of you, you get to charge again and do it again. And if you manage to do it again, you get to charge again and do it again. And it's you like, if there was enough low wound things, you could just punch your way through a ton of units. And I think that there's nothing more destruction and nothing more Iron Jaws than that. And I would kind of throw it out there to anyone in the chat that has ever used one, that you definitely get a little titillated by that moment. And having that done against you, it's terrifying. It's terrifying to behold, but also you're kind of like, there is that part of you that's just like, oh, let's just bloody see it. Let's just bloody see how ham he goes. So I'm going to throw that one out there. That for me is my 5th best rule in Age of Sigmar.
Ooh, okay. It's a really good one. Can we get some ratings in the chat? You've already got a solid 9 in there. I really like it. I think I was at an event once, I saw someone triple. I saw a triple crushing bulk roll. 1, 2, 3. Which is just brilliant. A lot of love for that one in the chat. Nathan, what's your first one?
So I've not put them into any particular order, but I'm going to go with the in-between phase where you get to faff about with endless spells. I really enjoy that mechanic. I think it's spoilt a bit by the bound in the spells and some of that shenanigans, but that phase to me is a really cool little mechanic in the game where you alternate moving endless spells around. Makes you think a little bit about whether you take the turn or give the turn. When I was playing my endless spell list, I was always playing to try and be in a position where I was giving the turn away so I could maximize that in the spell phase, and then actually using the spells to block each other so that they had to affect units that couldn't, like it's particularly the pendulum. I love the way the pendulum is forced to do something, and you can block it by using other ender spells so that you've got double the effect out of the first spell that you move, because you've made sure that that pendulum stays where it is and carries on doing the damage and stuff like that. So yeah, ender spell, that in between phase with the ender spells is
very fun.
fun.
If someone's not 100% certain what he means is when you roll off the priority, whoever chooses to, like, if you win the priority and you choose to take the turn, or whoever is going to go first in the next battle round during the in-between phase, the person who's going second, so the person who's lost priority effectively, or hasn't been given it, whatever the situation, gets to move the first endless spell. So there's a good mechanic involved in the priority roll, which effectively is absorbed up by the endless spells. Like it's super fun, and it adds a layer to the priority roll, which is excellent, I think. So that's a really solid one. Some votes in the chat, please, on that. That's very good, and it's nice. That affects everyone, right?
Yeah, there's some really good tactics with using the endless spells and positioning them, especially if you've gone second and you play with them for that phase, but then you're playing for them to be moved in that second phase. So things like pendulum is obviously a strong one. Geminids is a real crunch one. That's why I'm not a fan of the bound endless spells, really. That just bound things like bound Geminids is just
horrific.
Boring.
Yeah. Not a very nice thing
and isn't 10 points more better, but yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that should be almost double the price. They're that good, I think.
Agreed. I agree with that. Yeah, they're super strong. Okay.
What did you go with?
Good one. Well, I mean, I'd obviously like to say the priority roll, but we're all assuming the priority roll is an incredible rule and it doesn't need explaining out. So like it's an integral part of the game, and like I've done nothing but enjoy this game with the priority roll in. I think anyone walking into the conversation is like, "What about a priority roll?" It's like you're in the wrong world, because we're all cool with it.
I still think the priority roll is one of the best bits of the game.
It's super thrilling. It's super thrilling. Like, I don't walk into a rib shop and be like, "Can't believe you're selling meat here." They're like, "This is what we do." Yeah, I think it's brilliant. But we don't need to. I don't think we need to bang on about it. We've talked about it plenty. That one's good. All right, so I don't know. I told you I picked 16, and I'm not sure which one to pick. So I'm gonna.
Okay,
just a light 16 to start it off.
Yeah.
Back to me.
No. I'm gonna choose the Arch Warlock. The Warp Lightning spell on the Arch Warlock is one of my favourite spells. One of my favourite things in Age of Sigmar. It's completely nuts. Basically, if you cast it, you can do D3 mortal wounds to D3 units within. I can't remember what the range is at this stage. But the exciting thing is if you overpower it, which is you always should do. It's
You're not
D3,
a Skaven player if you don't.
Yeah, it's D3 units, and then they do D6 mortal wounds. But if you fail to cast it or it's unbound, any of those two, then you take D3 times D6 mortal wounds yourself. And I played Nathan the other week, and I did 18 mortal wounds to myself, and I skyrocketed. I might as well put a missile in my rat's ass as you just flew into space. But I've used it when I was over in Northern Ireland at the Exploding Dice event. I used it there, and it was just so much fun. You can eat the Warpstone tokens, so you can get a reroll on it to give it another try. But it's just it's just big baller moves. That's what it is, and it's just, and also you get that glint in your eye. You know, like, I've never been a gambling man, but I imagine it's in the casino when you push all in. You know, when they're like, you say to the guy, let it ride, and you roll the dice again. Any of that, it's just that glint. You give them that look in the eye. That's what you do. Like when you're meeting a man at the docks, and you just go, it's on, let's go. And
What?
Do you do that often? Are there a lot of docks in Nottingham?
No. It's just whatever way. But it's a great rule. Warp Lightning by Arch Warlock, in my opinion, is just a phenomenal rule, and it's so much fun. And also, you can do it, unlike other spells, you can do it multiple times. So if you wanted to, you could take 6 Arch Warlocks and just go mental. Yeah? And make a magic gun line. Huh?
Have a great day.
Someone would love it. Elf Joe loves it. It's 10 out of 10. All right, sweet. James, what's your second one?
So my second one is from a top tier book.
Ooh.
It's called Primordial Call. And I did see someone had shared it on Twitter too when you talked about it on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So this is that one better goat can shovel some other goats into the herdstone. And when I brought this book and that little herdstone, I like this rule so much that I gave a goat wizard and green stuffed him a shovel instead of his little staff. Cut the staff off, put a shovel head on, shovel them Ungor in. I just think it's great. Like, it's not a hugely amazing rule, I don't think. Like, the summoning points aren't enough to help that Beast of Chaos book out. But, narratively, it's such a great rule. Like, we've got some goats. We like chaos. We need more goats. How do we get more goats? We'll sacrifice some more goats to the
By
goat
cooking
god.
these ones.
And that'll get some more. Some more will come from the edge if they smell the cooking meat. Get them on the fire, lads. I just think it's great. Like, every time I did, I have to say, of all the faction terrain, I honestly hate most of it. Like, rule-wise, I think it's pants. And get rid of it. I don't care. Like, that Beast of Chaos army, that herdstone, amazing. Like, it was written. That army was written with that piece of terrain in mind. Like, it worked really cool. The rules really narrative. And I loved every part of it so much. I modded a model to have a shovel. And I spent about 3 hours wiring LED flame lights inside that herdstone so it lights up. And every time I'd be like, oh, I'm going to burn some goats. Turn it on. Oh, they burn. Like, it was just exciting. Like, everything about it's just exciting. So that's my second rule. I just love it.
Have you ever thought about bringing? I don't know why ribs is being mentioned so much, but I don't know if you've ever thought about just bringing some kind of some smoky style meat and leaving it by the side, so it's got kind of that smell. It's actually an aftershave I use, smoky meat. So I can send it. I can send it. So when I'm eating men at the docks, it's what I wear. And are you worried about Peter getting involved in burning goats, or you're not too?
They don't like wolf pelts, do they, on other armies? But no, I think like narrative, and maybe it's okay because goats are burning goats. It's not people, is it? Like, no one's. It's goats killing goats. I think it's. Are
they goat people though, or people-y style goats?
So I only ever burn Ungor, and they're like the most people-y of the goats, I think. And they were getting burned by a Bray shaman who's more goat than person, so I think that's okay. It's almost like a goat burning people, I think.
Okay.
The most people-y of the goats is a phrase that I'm very excited has now been introduced to kind of this show.
Excellent. Best rule.
It reminds me of a song called The Chicken Song by Beans on Toast, if anyone would like to research it, which is he's a folk singer in the UK. It's a really good song and about chickens eventually taking over and eating all of us because we eat them. Dan, what's your great one, by the way? James, great one. What's your second?
Okay, so for those who have been living under a rock, you may not be quite aware of the big man in the loincloth and not a lot else named Katarkaros. And he was introduced to us in the Ossiarch Bone Reapers battle tome. And he has this amazing rule called companions. And I'm pretty sure most people will be aware, but it's as he's joined by, because he's obviously a very important person. He's the HBIC. He's a big VIP, so he has a bunch of little helpers with him. And as his model gets wounded, it's all one large base. He's like a boss in a video game, in that the more he gets damaged, the more he loses his helpers. But he starts to be like, all right, now I should have a bloody go. And his stats change. And almost like he starts using different weapons and whatnot. And I just think that that's such a cool rule. Like, they've effectively created a video game boss out of this character. And I think it's amazing. Do you want me to read the rule, or like I just don't want to get into being like now this is this. But
yeah, I remember when TLDR,
when I first read it, I was like, this is such a cool concept for a rule, because there's everything else that a couple of things get better as they get damaged. A lot of things get worse, but this was, it was just really, really cool. Okay, so
there are calls for you to read and act it out. I'd just like you to know.
Okay, great. Okay, then fantastic. Read and act it out. Fuck, who was that?
Could you do it? Can you do it in interpretive dance?
No.
I don't have the rule. I don't have the anyway. So Katakros is accompanied by a bunch of little duties. That's the technical name for them. They're his friends. It's a Gnosis scroll bearer, a prime Nikafafafafafa, a soul weaver. An Aviarch spy master,
nice.
and the Liege Immortus that are his little guards.
Mm-hmm.
And the companions that are currently accompany Katakros vary depending on the number of wounds suffered by the model. Anyway, and then that builds into his damage table, where he makes more attacks or can't use certain weapons when he hasn't been damaged, because he doesn't deem it worth his time. And so I just think it's bloody ripper. I think it's a great rule. And
it fits in so well with the narrative, right? Because he even went up to Nagash and was like, "I'm the best general in the..." Like, he's so up himself. Yeah. He's such a snobby, like, he just thinks everything's beneath him, basically.
And honestly, his little friends are they're okay, they're all right, but they're not great. You're not going to write home about it. And then when he's Rend 3 damage 3 and Rend 2 damage 2, for sure, you're like, I just want the big boy to have a swing. But he's standing there like, I can imagine as a player, you're like, it's like Pokemon watching that scene where Charizard didn't listen to Ash. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, get in there and burn something. I imagine that's what he's doing. He's standing there with his spear and shield, just being like, yeah, they've got this. And you as a general are like, mate, I just need you to swing away. Come on, get in there. So I really like that he's, as a player, you've got to use him cleverly as well in that regard. And I dig it. I just think it's an awesome rule. It builds character. You have to play it tactically, and it lends itself to the army really well.
Good. Yeah, no, it's a great one. And I think also, like, I think it's the first example of them doing that. And I think that's actually, some of this stuff that we'll talk about is, like, unique. And I think the uniqueness of that is also, like, a big selling point as well. It's cool. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Big fan. Yeah, and everyone in the chat seems big fans of, especially the Pokemon reference. Nathan, what's your second one?
So I like the rules that they use. I do like playing with hordes, and so I do like the rules that they use to give the hordes a bit of flavor. And the example I'm going to give is obviously my favorite type of horde, which is the stabbers from the Gloomspike Gets, and they have an ability called backstabbing mob, because it's loads easier to stab your enemy in the back when they're surrounded by all your mates. So you get +1 to wound for attacks made with your melee weapons, while there's at least 15 dudes in the unit, and you get +2 to wound when there's at least 30 in the unit. So it's just a really cool themey way of being swarmed by night goblins, basically.
Mhm.
there's that many of them. Sure, the ones that are in front of you, they're probably a bit shit, but there's that many poking at you in the back. You can't stop them all, and I think this rule really really brings that across, because when you play with them and they're in the big block, they're really stabby, and they can stand toe to toe with just about anybody and give them a good stabbing. But once you start whittling those units down, they become just goblins, and they don't tend to do very much. So yeah,
And
I
you
like
see that in loads of different armies,
yeah.
right?
So like some of the old orc ones. Well, I think like in the bone splitters, they've still got it. If they're in a bigger mob, then they get +1 attack. And you see that in other rules, other armies get that as well. I think plague bearers get -1 and then -2 to hit from shooting, and then they also get minuses to hit once they're really big blocks in melee as well, just signifying all the flies and other crap that they have with them. So yeah, I like the way that those scaled up rules
Are
bring
implemented.
across the theme of what that big block, fighting against something that is such a big block.
It also
I
feels
think
like it fits.
Go on.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was
Right.
just going to say it feels like what it would be like to fight them, you know? Like if there was a handful, you'd be like, bugger that, that's all right. But very quickly, if you were surrounded by 30 or 40 of them, you'd be like, oh my God, they're everywhere. They're like running around behind you. They're tying your shoelaces together while they put a spear up your bum. I imagine that that is what it would be like to fight them as well.
Yeah, I also like especially like what Nathan said with the plague bearers in that situation, because they did with the goblins, they've made them so they're more outputty, but the plague bearers they made it more defensive. So actually there should be ways, or it would be nice to see for some of the armies in the future, for them to take that kind of like setup, if you know what I mean, and think it through a little bit more, and just be like, okay, 30 demonettes, they're a bit more quick, or something that's like I do like that, and I think that's a really good one, Nathan, you point out. I mean, marauders get like sharper they get sharper weapons if there's more of them, which is important.
They hit harder.
They do
More
also.
Orwellian.
Because for some reason, when they're in a group, they're all just like, "Hey, did you remember to bring the flint just to sharpen the axe?" They're like, "Oh my gosh, I did."
That's what they're doing. Like, if I'm gonna hit someone and you're behind me and you're all pumped up about it, you're pushing me into them, so then I hit them harder. That's how
Your
it works.
axe gets sharper, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. You believe
Yeah.
so hard in the
Blunt
power
force
of
trauma.
friendship.
Yeah, friendship. That's what Pokemon taught us too. Friendship's the true strength.
Yes, I agree. That's a good one again, Nathan. Get a good meta pick as well for like the mechanics of the game, which work quite nicely. And it would be nice to see them develop that idea more for some armies, definitely. All right, my second one is the Flamespire Phoenix special rule, Phoenix Reborn. I just think that is super fun. So if you don't know what that does, basically the Phoenix dies, it loses its last wound, you roll a dice on a 4+, the entire Phoenix come back to life. And I just think that's, like, thematically nailed it. Like, I kind of get the Frost aura from the Frosty, like a bit, I guess. But the Flamey is just all about it. I just love it. It's just really good. I just think it's fun. I think it's exciting for you and your opponent. Like, it's a fun dice roll in the game. You're like, not sure what's going to happen. Like, right? Do you not think that's fun?
I just like Mere Mouse's comment that says that's some one-sided fun there.
It is. Well, no, because it's 50% of the time I get it. 50% of the time it doesn't die, and it dies, and you're like, oh, okay, guess it's bad. I guess I've killed it. Do you know what I mean? No.
Yeah, it's a cool rule. I think like it's a cool rule that you never often see as well. So
It's too hit or miss, so people don't take it. But it is when it's cool. 100% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah, well, 100% of the time, someone is upset. Like, someone's
we
bothered.
want.
Yeah.
We want someone crying, so it's good. It's the outcome we were looking for.
I would particularly enjoy it if, like, one of them died near James's goat barbecue. and like set fire to the goat barbecue, like gave
Not
it the
the
fire it
goat
needed.
barbecue.
Uh,
Not the goat. Someone ruined it once. They killed the wizard, and I literally almost rage quit the game. I was so sad.
well, how you
I
feel
have
when
one
how you gonna feel when a
thing.
gargant when it comes and blows it up?
Stupid model.
Thank you to Davad Ams for subscribing. I think it's your first time you've joined the team. Oh, that's cute. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so yeah, that's mine. I know it's not particularly interesting. I just think it's a fun rule. It's super on point with the narrative. Makes loads of sense. The thing comes back to life. I love that it comes back to life on full wounds. It's just like, I'm back, bitches. Like, it's just great. Like, really into that. I love that it does wounds when it flies over and stuff. But that's my number 2. Go on then, James. What's your number 3?
Okay, so my number 3 is from the same Beasts of Chaos book, and there's 2 reasons I love this.
Oh my
One,
god, I might have this one. Okay, yeah.
it's the only spell I've
Oh.
never cast, even though I did try probably most turns for about 3 months.
I
Okay.
feel like I know where we're going with this.
The spell is Savage Dominion. That what you
Savage-
expected? It's the worst spell in Age of Sigmar, but last week got made the best.
Okay,
And
tell
I'll
us
tell you
why.
So it's a book spell, so you have to take it from the lore.
Mhm.
It got FAQ'd, which is really important. So it used to cast on a 7, which is 50-50. Now casts on a 5, so much better. So you cast the spell, and you pick an enemy monster once you've cast it within, I think it's 18 inches. And you then roll 2d6, and if you can roll above their bravery, you get to move them, I think it's about 4 inches. And when they finish, you pick an enemy within an inch of them, I think it is, and then you roll 1 dice for every wound on their wound profile, and for every 4 up, whatever they've hit takes a mortal wound. So you basically take over the mind of a monster, throw it at its own friends, it throws its fat at them, and then does some mortal wounds. It's never been a very good spell. It's never gone off. You used to have to cast on a 7, then you used to have to roll the bravery above the bravery of a monster.
Also, isn't it
Most
quite
of-
short range?
Yeah, the range is not very good, but goats are fast. That's fine. We're not worrying about that.
Okay.
The issue's always been that you had to roll a 7, and then you had to roll above the monster's bravery. So you're probably talking, 8, 9, 10 on 2 dice. It's always been really hard. However, and I was only going to do 5 mortal wounds if you got something big. Last week,
maybe.
Games Workshop, or Saturday Games Workshop, kindly released us a monster with a really low bravery characteristic
Nice.
and 35 wounds.
The maniacs! What were
Can
they
you
thinking?
imagine? Someone's brought 2 mega gargants and they're like, these 2 go down the board together, these cap objectives, and you're like, cool, that one's walked into that one. 35 dice. 4 ups for a mortal wound. Oh, that 100-point goat wizard. It's just done 15 mortal wounds.
Worth it.
Best
Worth.
idea.
I'd like
Right.
that to be an achievement on the achievements. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. That's
Yeah,
that's a
just
good
think-
one.
Like, it was a cool spell.
versus
the idea-
gargants.
And now it's just been made better. Games Workshop made it easier to cast, and then they gave us 35 4-up rolls.
So Provocatory says, so what you're saying is a Mega Gargant does more damage when it's being controlled by an actual goat than when they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as it's run into the goat barbecue, you're like, no, mate, into him. He runs into him. They kill each other. They fall on top. Done. Everything's
James, you're a
dead.
maniac. Can I just point this out? You're like at the back burning goats. At the front, you're making gargants run into each other. It's just wildness in your games. I don't know what's happening. Yeah.
I'm excited. I want to be a part of it. I want to watch it happen.
By the
I-
way, everyone is James is now known as the Goat Burner. That's his new
Great.
nickname forever.
Good nickname for a vegetarian.
Well, yeah, you don't eat them. You just burn them.
Yeah, that's true. just
That's why he's a vegetarian, because it's burnt. It's like, oh, I'm not going to have my
I'm not
bloody
going to
burn.
eat that. Why would I want that?
That's a great rule. Would you remind us again what it's called, just quickly?
It is Savage Dominion, the spell.
Savage Dominion. Savage Dominion. There we go. That's James's Savage Dominion of burnt goats and smashed gargants. That's what we're in. Dan, what's your third one?
Okay, so third place for me and the first Dwarden rule on the list, but not the last, thankfully. And it's honestly, I kind of dig this one. I've dug it since I first read the Battle Tome, and it's the KO spell in a bottle.
Oh,
So this rule is an artifact that has to be taken on an Aether Chemist, which is
Dirty,
fortunate
dirty
because you wouldn't really want to
spellcasting
take.
dwarf. This is
You- you wouldn't-
outrageous.
You wouldn't want to take one. However, I love the idea. So they're all about like either chemistry and everything like that. And effectively, they have managed to take an endless spell, shove it in a bottle, cork it, and he's just carrying around with the bound power of the realms in this bottle that he throws. And you can there's no limitations on what spell it can be as well. He could throw a Balewind, he could throw in anything, and for a rule, I love it because what it does is creates this opportunity for you to kind of do something different with your army. Like you could build a gameplay mechanic around it because you're not wondering if you're going to cast it. As long as the model stays alive, he's going to get to effectively auto cast this spell that can't be dispelled. And it means that you can create some really interesting strategies and tactics based around it. So I love that it creates something dynamic for the army. I mean, you could put the Soul Seeker Bringy Dingy in there. So you could have a boat in a bottle. You could literally have a ship in a bottle to add another boat to your already boat army, just like Boatception. And then you mount him on another boat. So you've got a boat in a bottle on a guy on a boat. Just want to put that out there. Just to hurt your opponent's brain, you can do that. But it's versatile, it's different, it's reliable as well. I just think it creates some really cool plans and stories. Like I personally, I can imagine using it with the Wildfire Taurus and just like being like, go Tauros, and like, no, I'm going to go with the Pokemon theme now, like throwing it out, and then it runs off and punches into something, meaning that you can charge it and it'll have to fight last. Like you could combo charge. You could use it as the Bringy Dingy to start to pop other units out and move them around. Like Nathan was saying, you could use it to protect against the double turn. There's so many options, and I really, really dig it. So that's why it, for me, it's an immediate thought for that. It's so cool. It's really thematic for the army, and it gives them something different. But also, to take it, you have to take a less than top tier hero. So
it's pretty common. Like if anyone wants to tune into earlier today and listen to the Age of Sigmar tournament results, Casual Overlords are just kicking bottom wherever they are, and it's specifically because someone has put some sort of obnoxious Skaven spell in a bottle and keeps launching it at folk all day long. No one's. But I like what someone said in the chat. Like, imagine them catching a comet and putting it in a bottle. That's kind of cool. Yeah. But what's the weirdest end of spell that you could put in the bottle?
Balewind, because it's useless.
And then suddenly he's just on top of it, being like, "I can do nothing but see further."
I'm now a better target.
+1 save. That would be pretty useless. I'm trying to think of some of the other.
Could put the Lumineth one in, that every time someone casts, you can have +1 to cast.
The Twin Stones.
You could give him the Arachna Cauldron, and then he would be able to cast all the spells from the Moon Clan lore.
Is that true?
Yeah.
But he's not a wizard.
He's not a wizard.
He would know them all. If he would be able to cast them, I'm not sure. But he'd know all of those spells, and he'd have +1 to cast. And he'd have to sacrifice things into it.
He'd become the genie from the start of the original Aladdin, where he's like, phenomenal cosmic power, but the inability to use it.
That will work. That'd be great. I like the idea that actually it's a Grot in Caradron armor that's just trying to get away with it. Who's like, oh, I brought this cauldron I found.
Oh my gosh! Hey, have you tried this? But yeah, I think it's okay. First of all, it ticks the box of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's creative, and yes, obviously you're always just going to put the first thing in there. But say you were like, I really want to go heavy on combat, or I really want to do something, or I want to put the cogs in there. Actually, no, you'd need to be a wizard to activate the cogs, so never mind. That's a waste of your time. But I think it offers a lot of really cool, interesting stuff, and then to kind of go on top of it as well, it's fun. for your opponent to see too. Now, yeah, sure, if they're just getting freaking Warp Lightning Vortex, it sucks. But one of the ones I'd love to put in there is what's the murder ghost from Ossiarch Bone Reapers, the one that seeks out a character
Nightmare
and kills
Predator?
them? Yeah,
The
yeah.
Predator,
Yeah.
See, like that would be cool, just to be like, if every game there's that one character that you just off it goes, and it's going to seek him out. I just think that's kind of cool.
That's very cool. No, I agree with you,
very
absolutely.
grudgy.
Yeah, also very grudgy. Yeah, I do like the idea that they're just dropping bottles and launching random spells around the board.
I only
would
wish you could have more, but you didn't know what spell came out, and so
Yeah.
they're just like, whoa, whoa. Suddenly there's just this chaos on the board, and they're like, ah.
I'd
Purple
like
Sun.
a Black Library novel about the dwarf that puts the spells in the bottles.
Yeah, like just no. I don't want him. I want like his manager, who's just like there's like the team filling all the bottles up, and he's just like, tell you what, it's a disaster today. We've had 3 go off. A Nightmare Predator ran off. We had to go trap him down. That would be an amazing Black Library book.
Well, no, and it's him getting the work order as well, and he's like, all right, what do we got today? Just like James with the gargants. Like it gets the work order, picks it up, and is just like puts it down and puts his head in his hands, and his little offside is like, what is it? And he's like, Purple Sun.
But it's such a small bottle. How are we gonna?
And he's just standing there, and then I imagine all of the spells are just in a waiting room. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever been like called for jury duty and has to wait, but they're just all there. And then he's like, rocks up and he's like, Purple Sun. And then he's like, oh gosh, get in the bottle. He's like, no, you don't want to get it. He's like, get in the bottle.
But it's done by the chemists, isn't it? So they've got that vacuum cleaner. They run around and suck them
It's
up.
a Ghostbuster.
Oh, brilliant! Good one.
So,
It is
yeah,
good.
so that's my third favorite rule in AOS.
Yeah, sorry again is right. Commissions or submissions, sorry, to Warhammer Horror is currently open. And if you wrote it from like a really tedious third perspective, like people are like, what sort of horror is this? It's just the horror of tedium, of having to do lots of like 3 pages of the book could just be like the
Day-to-day
safety
life.
checks. Yeah, the safety checks before you're allowed to actually try to install the spell in the bottle. It's like, that's the horror. Day-to-day tedium is true
Was
horror.
this spell cast by a Cities of Sigmar wizard? If so, it's empowered and will need a bigger bowl.
Okay, Nathan, what is your third one? Yeah.
Right. So the next one I'm going to do is it's actually there's a group of things that have a similar ability. So obviously one of the best units in the game is the Gobbapalooza.
Yeah,
Obviously.
Yeah. And they have something in common with the Troll Hag. And there is also a moon-faced Mommet that the Mad Cat Shaman can take. So these are items that reduce the save of enemy units. So it's quite cool. The Mommet is an artifact that only Madcaps can take. So it's they've all got a little bit of a downside. So I like the fact that it's a really strong ability, i.e. it effectively gives you rend, and it's giving rend to things like hordes of stabbers or like mad herds of squigs, which have already got rend. So if they suddenly become rend 2 or 3, they're proper scary. And so the move face Mommet only range 12, and it's on a little 4-wound character that's got no save really, a 6-up save. So it's a dicey artifact to take in your artifact slot, because once they get wind of it, that fella's probably not long for this world. The Troll Hag, quite an expensive piece for what you get really. Her spell is also, it's only a short range. I think it's only 12 inches. It's great because it also makes you -1 to hit. So that's a little juicy bonus, but reducing that save. And then obviously the Shrewmancer, the most beautiful of grots on his mushroom, running around, having had a dicey shroom. But yeah, again, it's only an 8-inch range spell. So that's, you've really got to play to get that into use. but it's a great spell. That
Could you not do a Prescott at this stage, which is taking very short-range spells like 8 inches, sticking them on a Balewind, and then putting it through a spell portal? I think that's the technical term for that now. Anything sub 9 inches is a spell that you spend 90 points on to achieve. No more than that. God.
Well, the last list I wrote is effectively got that in. So yes, there is a portal in the list where I've got a Shrewmancer. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I have used the Shrewmancer and obviously the Mommet. I've yet to use the Troll, and I have got the Shrewmancer spell off and the Mommet on the same unit at one time. It was great. My Giant went into a unit of ogres with effectively -3 Ren, but they've only got a 5-up save, so more Ren than he needed. But yeah, it's cool. It's I like the ability, and I like the fact that it's strong, but also it's balanced in that there's a downside to it, and you've got to play to be able to use that ability. So that ability of being able to give your little grots rend is awesome. I mean, there was one in the Git mob, which are no longer with us. They are now legendary Git mobs. But yeah, sneaky stabbing did the. It was that one actually gave you rend, but that one was quite hard to cast. It was cast on a 7. There was no way of getting any buffs to that casting, so it was a spell that.
That was pre-Balewind as well, wasn't it? So you wouldn't be able to extend the range too.
I can't remember, but yeah, I used to love having it on my Wolf Shaman, and when it did go off, those little units of Grots or the Wolf Riders would become proper blenders, as I'm sure you remember, Rob.
I do, and I hated it.
Wolf Riders going through unkillable tree lords and stuff like that. So yeah,
it wasn't unkillable though, was it, Nath? Because it died. Yeah.
Yes,
I agree with you, because there's some other abilities where you can reduce saves as well. I'm thinking specifically of the one that's in the Cities of Sigmar army, which is a spell where you can just take away someone's
yes.
whole save, which is super fun. But they are very difficult to manage and achieve, a bit like James's ability that he was talking about earlier. And some of those things that they do is, or some of the things that they have that do those weird and odd mechanics are normally super weird and odd, and you don't tend to see them in tournament play because they're not very reliable. So I love the idea of there being some sort of achievement where it's like, I've done a thing. Like now, it's my mission in life to make one Gargant run into another Gargant. Why is that not just the most fun thing you can do? Yeah.
Because it emotionally breaks a human being who has invested a lot in Gargants.
Not bothered. If I get that spell off, I'm gonna be like, you're not even moving that yourself. I'm doing it.
Also, big shout out. Some shouts for Rustfang in the chat. Archeon is in the chat, by the way. He says my 3 favorite rules are Rend 2 on the Slayers of the King, the 2 general abilities that screw you over, and knowing who has priority, and Bellacore screw unit ability. Yeah, those are some other cool ones. Nath, good shout. Good shout on that. So I'm gonna. This is very Beast of Chaos themed. I've got a lot though, but I am going Beast of Chaos for my next one. For a unit that you don't see very often, but I think has arguably got the very coolest rule. So this is a unit of Centaurs, and they have an ability called Drunken Revelry, which is
great rule.
Absolutely brilliant rule. It reminds me loads of what was it called, Nath? The Destruction Pot for max damage, but you always died.
The Battle Brew.
Battle Brew. Yes, and you guys, if you don't remember that from the very early days of Age of Sigmar, when Destruction didn't have any allegiances at all, they just used the Destruction allegiance, and Battle Brew was something you could sip, and you would get +1 to hit and +1 to wound as well, maybe.
Yeah.
But then you
double tapped it.
Yeah. You got both.
Mortal wounds.
Yeah, and then you took damage. And I remember commentating on a game once where there was a mega boss and he was on a hill and he just whomped everything around him, and then he just passed out. Well, he died, but like in my commentary, he just passed out drunk on the top of this hill, having slain everyone and nuked himself on Battle Brew. Anyway, so in honor of that, Centaurs have got a good ability. Now, you don't generally tend to see Centaurs because they're ugly models anyway, but Drunken Revelry, I'll read out the rule. Centaurs drink with reckless abandon, even in the heat of battle. What I like about this rule, mechanically, is you get something and lose something. And that's really important. You generally, in this game, tend to just get something you don't get and lose. And this is at the start of your hero phase. You can see that this unit is drinking wildly. I would do it all of the time, obviously. If you do so until your next hero phase, you add 1 to hit rolls for attack made by this unit and attacks that target this unit. So you're like drunkenly stumbling into the enemy, and then also they're just like, it's much easier to hit you. And it's the additional they get to hit you in a +1, which I actually find really, really exciting. I think that's super fun. I like to have other units that that drink and they get to double their move, but if you roll a double on the charge, they fall over, like the old giant rule. You know,
Yeah.
like I like you get a rule. This is and there are some other examples of you get a bonus and you lose, but not many. Normally it's just reward, but I like this risk reward sort of setup, and I think that is just brill, and it's thematic. It's awesome. I love the idea that they're just hammered. You can build them kind of fun as well. Like, if you put them into Nurgle, let's say, and then you gave them Blades of Putrefaction. Oh, no, that's unnatural. That's on natural 6s now, isn't it? So that doesn't work. But it's just really funny. It's just a really funny ability. I think it's super thematic, and I love the idea of just, like, drunk half-goat men. Also now, a fantasy of mine, which I'm going to share with you guys. It's a bit weird and kinky, and I'm sorry, but just super invested in Centaur ladies. Like, normally you see Centaur men, but now I'm like, Centaur women? That's a kink I didn't know I had until I saw it, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I saw a picture, and now I'm in. So, I shared the picture with you guys. You guys have seen it.
Yeah, it was brought up last week, kind of.
Yeah.
Indirectly. You've just crashed yourself
Now I've directly brought it up.
And my point still stands on that picture.
What's your point? Oh, yeah, okay, I remember your point. We won't say that out loud.
Yeah, but let's not. Let's not.
Even in Lofthammer, I hope you well. Yeah.
Mind's eye can only handle so much.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of chat recently about, like, female space marines and, you know, and all that other stuff. And I'm like, until I get my female centaur representation, I am unhappy with this game. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Right, James, what's your fourth one?
My fourth rule is my favourite endless spell in the whole of Age of Sigmar.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's a big call.
Yeah.
It's a big call.
Which is Dreadful Visage.
Wow.
Which is for those that don't know, the mirror which was in the Slanesh endless spell pack. Which I guess goes with my serious Marathi rule. I just think, again, it's one of those things that brings something that you don't often see or is very intricate in its own rules, but also is actually, for this one, I think, like, it's super strong and it allows you to control the game in a way that nothing else does. So for anyone that doesn't know,
this, by the way, was in my almost made it list. I love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's on the same basis like a large mounted, medium mounted hero, isn't it? Yeah, Juggernaut. So it's a decent-ish size base. It moves 8, but you set it up within 12 when you cast it. It casts on a 7. So the first turn when you cast it, you get about 20 inches. And then where it gets really interesting is if you get it by a hero, you roll 6 dice. Each 4 up, they take each 6, right? They take a mortal wound, but they all times by each other. And then, but the best bit being that is that the wrong one? That's the wrong name, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the wrong name? Dreadful Visage? I got the wrong one.
You're talking about you mean the mirror, mesmerizing mirror.
Mirror. That's what I mean. Sorry, okay. Dreadful Visage is a wrong name. Mesmerizing mirror. That's the one. So it's a mirror. You throw it at someone. You roll 6 dice every 6 times this by every 6. So every time I've done it, it's probably done 1 mortal wound. As I was explaining it to someone in a game once, I rolled it on his Skaven Priest and was like, it generally does 1. It's done 1 all weekend, rolled 6 dice. So I was like, cool, it did 1. It did 1 mortal wound. And then I rolled it on his Vermin Warlord with the 4 rerollable save. And I was like, cool, it normally does 1, roll the dice. And I was like, cool, that's 32. 32 mortal wounds. And he was like, I'm not rolling them. And I was like, no, you get the save. He's like, I'm not rolling 32. I was like, okay, cool. Had a good game. Your game being a good game, but it was okay. But then I think where it gets really interesting, like it's strong, and that's terrifying in its own
but
right.
it could be strong. It's not like something like Darkfire Demon, where if you get it into the right situation, it just is strong.
Yeah.
This is like you say, often and not you'll do a mortal wound, but it can spike dumb, which is kind of the fun moments in the game, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's how I play now. I play dumb Warhammer probably, but then I do think for me the best bit of it is the movement shenanigans. So basically, anyone that starts within 12, I think of it off the top of my head, it might be 6. They have to end closer to it than they started, or they take D3 mortal wounds.
Yep.
So I think once in a game, I followed a Mangler Squig around the whole board and killed him. Just on the movement mortal wounds because he didn't seem to get what was going on.
So we've established that a Mangler Squig is not like a budgerigar that gets distracted by its own reflection and is like, he's a pretty boy then.
Yeah, I just think it's a great spell. It brings something completely different to the game, and I guess there is part of me that like there are obviously like the Warp Lightning Vortex caused a load of stir because it was so strong. Geminids always cause loads of stir because it's always been great. Darkfire Demon Rift, everyone still cries about because it's a bit bent. And I just think like this has the ability, like it's pure RNG. It's like, do you want to move by it? Does it affect your army? Can I roll it? Can I roll 6 6s and just delete something?
It's super fun. It's super fun and really threatening. And I like what it does with the movement phase as well. You've got to move around away from it. It casts really far away. I've included it in lists before. I really like it. I think it's a great spell, and I think it's I wouldn't say it's unique, like, you know, it does some AoE damage, but that's one of the nice things about the endless spells is they generally tend to like all have their own thing a bit, you know, which is quite fun. But yeah, it's situational and a bit random, but it's quite cool, and it feels more like a spell with a presence, if that makes sense. Like when you've just got like an endless spell that just flies over you. Like I don't get the Geminids. They're like, oh, I've been hit by a white ball, now I'm -1 to hit. You're like, oh, okay, what the hell? Whereas that thing makes sense. It's like a mirror. You're like, I've got to go towards it, sort of a thing. I don't know.
It's also very Slaanesh. Yeah,
it's very Slaanesh. I think they did really well with that.
Harry Potter and that mirror thingy of his vibes. I can't remember what that was called, but the mirror that shows you what you want to see or something like that. No, never mind. Read a book, you ingrates.
I know what it is. I just can't. I don't have Harry Potter like at fingertip level of like recall. I'm just like,
isn't that what all English people have? Isn't that like what you're supposed to be?
Isn't it in the room of wanting or something or whatever? Who cares? Right, Dan. What's your fourth one? Yeah.
Okay, my fourth one is so my 1 and 2 was pretty tough to choose between.
Okay.
And I just want to put that out there because I feel like I'm going to cop some flack at some point. But number 2 for me is Rune Law on the Rune Lord for the wonderful Dispossessed. And I'm just going to go with the rule first and then afterwards go with the why.
Okay.
So calling upon the latent magic of runic engravings, Rune Lords imbue the weapons and armor of their kin with ancient power. So in your hero phase, you choose one of the following. It's a prayer, effectively, a rune prayer. You choose a unit and roll a dice, and on a 2-up, it goes off. On a 1, obviously, it doesn't. Nothing bad happens if it doesn't go off, but it just obviously doesn't happen. One of them gives the unit a 6-up DPR, which is lovely. We like that. And the other one increases the rend of the unit by 1. So 0 to 1, 1 to 2, all of that jazz. Now, the reason I dig that is because, first of all, why are you shaking your head? Why are you shaking your head there?
No, carry on.
So the reason I dig that as a rule for two reasons. First, the fact that it goes off on a 2-up means it's quite reliable, but it's too easy to rely on it. So then when you roll the 1, it actually really messes you up. The other thing I love is like that the traditional dwarven stuff about them not using magic is that they create much more reliable ways to harness it. So I kind of like that on a 2-up. Yes, it definitely works, and all of it kind of like he can lean onto it and be like, yeah, this is definitely going to work. It's going to be great. And so for me, I just really dig that it's going to happen, but then when it doesn't, it really messes everything up. And it's quite reliable for what he should be doing. He should be like tightening their armor, or he should be like setting their weapons on fire so they get more stabby. And I dig it. I think it's great.
I hear you. I do like the argument that because they don't do magic, like, because other prayers normally in other factions are on a 3+, right? So there's some representation as to why they have like a better prayer, because they're like, well, we're not magic at all, so we're like super honed in on this concept. That's quite fun. I've just been on the receiving end of that -1 save more than once in my life, and it's extra rend is more what I mean, and it's just it's tough. Nate, you're a big fan of those spells, aren't you? Or prayers?
Yeah. The rune lords are great, where they just activate that rune. Very reliable. Although I do tend to roll a lot of 1s for that.
I was about to say that's the reason though. I was like, that's the reason that I think it's interesting, is because you're like, okay, this unit, the Rend 2 means I'm gonna be in an okay place, and then you roll the 1 and you're like, okay, all right, crap. And like you because you do rely on it, because you're like, yeah, my rune powers going off on a 2-up, they're reliable. You roll that 1, you're like, my hero phase is in a bit of disarray on a single dice roll. And it's a really cool kind of thing. But it also means that for Dispossessed, when you come up against something with ethereal, it messes you up hard, because you're like, my army, like my strength is in Rend. So suddenly you get ethereal and you're like, I'm in a little bit of trouble here. My hammerers are going to be standing around doing nothing.
Yeah, it's someone brought up actually ethereal being a cool rule. They were like, that's one you should mention. Some people don't think it is, but I do think it is, because it's like in the right setup, because it does, give your opponent an opportunity, and it kind of changes the balance, right? You're like, I'm going to run through everything. It's like, no, not these guys, and they're like, oh no.
I think ethereal's more interesting. No, you can't put it on every bloody hero as well.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
that's what made people hate ethereal, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's fair. Well, that's a good one, Dan. That's a good one. Nathan, what's your 4th one?
So my 4th one is more than 1 again, because I'm greedy. So it's a rule that the Ale Guzzler Gargant, and an ability that the Dankhold Trogboss has got. So it's shoving things in your pants, getting hold of them with your crushing grip.
Okay.
So it's been able to pick out a model and
eat it with a Star Drake.
Yeah, them as well, but they're not proper things, so yeah, it's fine. Crushing grip. So crushing grip is probably the stronger of the two. Well, obviously is, because you can take out a 6 wound model if you roll a 6, whereas the other one you have to roll a double. So you're going up to 3 wound models with the Ale Guzzler, and then obviously the new Mega Gargants have got it as well. Or they've got versions of it, but
not as strong, is it?
Not as strong as they're not as strong as the Dankhold Trogboss one, but they're probably stronger than the Ale Guzzler one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But it's the ability to just auto-kill a character, which you're like a big fan of, or auto-kill a thing, really. Pick it out.
A thing, yeah. Pick out, like fighting clan rats, you take out that banner bearer that lets them retreat and charge. Like, you stop running away, you sneaky little bastards. Because you haven't got your flag. And stuff like that.
I love the idea that it's like, oh God, without it, how will we know what to do?
They're tiny little rats. What do you expect from them?
What about the Hecatos? I love grabbing a Hecatos out. Yeah, that's fun.
That'd be great. So, yeah, that's I mean, obviously they're great names, aren't they? I mean, the Ale Guzzler one is actually shove them in a bag, but I mean, what sort of that? It's
We know what it
pants.
really
Yeah,
is.
it's all
Nathan,
bag.
Nathan,
Sorry.
the world over, no one, even in Japan, someone in Japan messaged me about this. Someone walked up to the guy and was like, "I'll now be casting the racist swords." Like, no one calls them the Quicksilver swords. They're the racist swords. Yeah, and it's also shove them in my pants. No one's ever gone, "I'm going to shove you in my bag now." It's like, as soon as they heard that they could, they're going to call them pants. Like,
Always pants. Yeah.
always pants, and always the racist swords. Someone earlier was like, "Cast the racist swords." I was like, that is funny, objectively.
Yeah, so the only thing not a fan of is obviously you can use it to break unit coherency, and then then you start battle shocking half the unit off. I'm not a fan of the unit coherency rule doing that to units. I think they should just be forced to close
Become
ranks
two
or
units.
something.
Oh.
But
Like if you're outside of unit coherency in your next movement phase, you can only pile in or something to return to coherency or something like
exactly, and you can't control objectives or you're out of coherency, stuff like that. There's other ways you could do it rather than just forcing people, because the things like the crawler can do it as well, like snipe out dudes in the middle of a line, and then suddenly you've lost half the unit, and it's just not intuitive, and it's not a very pleasant rule.
I didn't know you didn't like that. That's interesting. Didn't know that.
I'm not a fan of that, but I am a fan of shoving things in my pants or getting hold of them with me crushing grip.
All right, good rules.
Rob,
Good
he wants to
rules.
put it in his pants for the horror of the thing going in, not because all of his friends are like, "Oh God, now we're not standing in the proper line."
Yeah, agreed. Okay, good one. Mine is going to be I've got still again a list. I'm looking at them like what to choose. I'm going to choose this particular rule because I think again with the idea of that plus and minus, I think that this is just like really on point as well with the narrative. And I think, again, fairly unique, and it breaks some of the game mechanics, which is... The War Scrolls are meant to break the game mechanics a tad, and I think this is super fun. Was I going to do this one? Yeah, I'll save the other one until next time round. Okay, this special rule is called... let me just get it here. Irresistible Challenge. Do you guys know where this comes from?
Oh.
Isn't this just Slanesh rule?
No.
It is a Slanesh rule.
Oh,
It's
really?
from the is it from the Keeper of Secrets character that you never see?
Shalaxi Hellbane. You did use
That's
this
the
here
one.
a bit, yeah.
No,
So
good.
it's...
Carry on.
Okay, you see it a lot in Cybereyes. But anyway, so Irresistible Challenge, I'll read the rule out. Few can resist the sorceress challenge delivered by Shalaxi Hellbane. Those who do find her cowardice rewarded with crippling agony. Now, again, in game terms, it's kind of interesting for bracketing a character and other stuff. But it's really like the conceptual narrative of this rule that I think is just phenomenal. And it's designed quite well, I think. At the start of the enemy charge phase, right? So not yours, and that's what's fun about it, because I'm messing with you in your turn because I'm so awesome, right? You pick one enemy hero within 12 inches of this model and more than 3 inches away from any models from your army, and you ask your opponent if they wish that hero to accept Shalaxi Hellbane's challenge. So, like, it's 3 inches, so it's not in combat, basically. It's within 12 inches of Shalaxi, and then you say, will you accept my challenge? And then... and it has to be a hero as well. If they refuse, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. It's not that big a deal. It's written so it's not like it's D3 mortal wounds. Like any of the big combat characters aren't going to really care. You know, it's not a super negative. If they accept, however, that hero must attempt to charge and must finish the charge within half an inch of this model if it's possible to do so. In addition, if the challenge is accepted, any attacks that hero makes against the following combat phase must target this model. So it's not massively important. It's just like I challenge you. It's like, no, I'm going to charge this instead. D3 mortal wounds. Like, okay, fine. You're not too bothered, right? But for interaction, like you probably can't even be asked in some situations to even have the conversation with your opponent. You're like, just take D3 more wounds, just like carry on, like a tournament. But when you're like, if you were playing it dead real and getting like really into it, you'd be like, I challenge thee, and then the other guy's like, I don't know if I accept, like, and I
The
love
other thing
that.
is, if you had a 5-wound hero that was quite down on wounds as well, you'd probably get to a point where you're like, damn it, I really need this hero to go somewhere else, but they're going to die if I don't. So maybe it's better if I just throw them away and hopefully do some damage before he dies.
Well, it's also important because obviously it's a greater demon, then you're going to also be locust. So if you do charge it, then on a 3+ Shalaxi's going to go first. So it's like it's a negative to try and like go over there. But like, a good example, thank you AOS Tim and some other people, is like Gottrek's just going to be loving this. Gottrek's like, I challenge you, and Gottrek's like, aye lad, I'll be right over. Yeah.
Just having a little feel.
Usually things are running away from me, so this is a lovely change of pace. Thank you. Very excited for this.
So I think that is a super fun rule. Like, it isn't particularly game changing in its like negative, but it allows two people to be having fun on the tabletop without changing the concept of the game massively. I mean, if you're really role playing and getting dead serious, maybe bring like a glove and just like whip someone across the face. Not that obviously I advocate that at all in any way, shape, or form, but that would be hilarious. yeah, throw it on the ground, the whole thing.
I know, I like this face slapping idea of yours. I think it could really catch on. Anyone who goes to tournaments, slap your opponent and say that Rob told you to.
I shan't be, but yes. All right, okay, good. I enjoyed that one. James, what about you? 5th one.
My last one. So actually, not sure this is even a particularly great rule, but I just love it. And it's a character that I love to hate and hate to love.
Okay, ooh.
So one of the only survivors, or very few survivors, of the old world to the new.
Ooh.
The big man himself.
Yeah.
With the longest tail.
With the longest tail.
And
very cryptic.
And a warpstone addiction.
Oh, thankwall.
Yeah. So that's the rule. Warpstone addiction. I just love it. I still think, and I guess being a long time-ish Warhammer nerd, and like even when I didn't play, I was still like into the lore and the novels and whatever. Like, I just think Thankwall's one of those characters. Like, if you grew up with Warhammer, there's no way you missed out on him. Like, he had about 13 models. And so I just think that rule's really cool. So that warpstone addiction. So if anyone doesn't know, so basically he can consume warpstone in quantities that would kill any other lesser rat, which makes him a better mage than anyone else, basically. So in each of your hero phases, when he attempts to cast a spell, you can eat warpstone, and if you do, you roll 3d6 instead of 2d6. You can't re-roll it or modify it. If it's a 13, you always cast the spell. So it always goes off and no one can unbind it. But then he takes d6 mortal wounds. If it's not a 13, you remove a dice of your choice and you might cast. So I just think it's cool, right? Because that and I think that's why I think I've talked about that in the show in the past. Like, I've brought some Skaven. I'm going to do some Skaven. But I just think that book's one of the few left where, like, there's some rules that are kind of like super narrative, super good, super dumb, and you're like, do I want to roll 3 dice and probably cast this spell and maybe kill like a 400-point model? Yes.
You're effectively going, what are you going to do? I'm going to do a Skaven. Like,
yeah.
I'm just going to do a Skaven.
Do I want to overcharge this cannon and probably kill it? Yes.
Absolutely, I do, yes.
Does this rat want to get high on warpstone every turn? I'm not rolling it. Like, every turn. And
overcharge the rattling cannon, overcharge the doom wheel, move the doom wheel a second time so your opponent can move it, make it go faster. The whole scryer thing is well done. And I think it's done so well because there's a risk and reward element. Like, and I know that that's meant to be like scryery or Skaven-y, but I wouldn't mind seeing that more through the rest of the book. you know, like even if you've got a black powder cannon or something, I wouldn't mind it if like, you know, like if you took that unit of handgunners from Free Guild, you know, every roll of 1 to hit is a mortal wound, you know, because they just like shoot their fingers off, you know. You would have to redo the whole game, so it's not going to happen. But I do think that the reason that it's so fun, those rules, is because there's a good, which is really good, and then there's a bad, which is also really bad.
Yeah, no, like, because there's also, like, for me, I just like the idea, like, he gets the stone, he crushes it up, sticks it up his nose, or whatever else he does with it. I don't want to know the other holes it might go into. But I just think, like, there's that cool thing, isn't there? You're like, I've rolled a 13, and there's, like, almost an amazing thing to it. Because if you're casting a spell that can change your game, you've like almost guaranteed a win, let's say, with the cast of a spell. You're like, cool, I've rolled a 13, it's definitely going off, you can't stop it, I've got the control of it. But then you're like, oh, I'm also dead. It's just cool. I just love it.
I like it too. I also like that, like, your world in Age of Sigmar is wild. There's gargants running into each other, there's goats being burnt, there's crack-addled rats running around. Like, it's
I think that's the thing, isn't it? And I know, like, we talk about lots of competitive stuff, and obviously I can quite happily come and do coverage and talk about the game competitively. But I think, like, there's still a nerd in me that almost, like, I want to take a stupid army that can still win a game. And I think, like, loads of the rules I picked out, like that, the gargants thrown themselves into each other could win you a game, but you're playing with a kind of probably terrible army at the minute. But there's some rules in there that make it really cool. The same as I just think it's like, I've got to cast a spell against a Kroak, I'm never going to get one off. If I take Thanquol and roll a 13, sucks to be Kroak, because I'm a better one.
They're the best. Like, okay, all right, Dan, what's your 5th one?
Okay, so chat, just get ready, James. Load yourself up.
I'm ready.
Because I know where this is going. Mine is it's a combination rule. Excuse me while I fetch the book, and it is from the Realm Lords.
Oh,
my God. What race?
Oh my God.
Whoa. Let's all stop. What race are the Realm Lords?
Sorry?
What race are the Realm Lords?
I believe they're cows. I saw a conversion online that looked really good, but they'd replaced the cow head with an elf head, and that upset me. We don't need to talk about it. They're Lords of the Realms. The specifics
Dan Elf is very strong. Yeah, Dan Elf. Also, can I just quickly point out, Chris in the chat says, I love the idea of handgunners having a double powder shot rule. Gives an extra rend or damage, but on a 1 it just blows them up. I love that, like, double shot. Dan, going all elf, above a dispossessed as well. That's pretty strong.
She's number 1 rule in the game.
Are we not the honest wargamer? And I cannot tell a lie in that regard. So what it is the Aether Quartz Reserve combined with Absorb Despair.
Good rule.
So the reason for it, okay, for those who don't know, every Realm Lord unit has a little piece of Aether Quartz Reserve. They can use it once a game.
Yeah, they're capitalists. They've just got some looted dragon gold.
Well, I mean, are they capital? I think they're communists because they all have an equal share. Just saying.
Not the Sire Nation, just saying, but that's no problem. We'll leave that out for a moment.
They all have an equal share, though. Inside of their nation, they're all equal. All I'm saying is they're just really equal, their whole nation. So the abilities or whatever you get, that's not really what I'm going for here. I'm more going for the piece where after they use their reserve, you subtract 1 from the unit's bravery for the rest of the battle. So they get this cool ability, they get it for 1 phase, and then they're punished for the rest of the battle. The rule then where I'm talking is the combo with Absorb Despair. Now they have a support hero who is glassy as hell. I think she's 5 wounds with a 6-up save.
Yep.
But the rule is Absorb Despair. If a friendly unit uses its Aether Quartz Reserve whilst it's wholly within 18 of any any friendly Catholicus,
Any friend? Mama. Are you so scared now? You'll run away like us. Wait, you two are talking about bravery debuffs and French in the same. Dan, that's a Second World War reference that no one needs to have. And French
Feel
listeners,
the-
I
and my
apologise. I apologise
Yeah,
for Dan's outrageous slur.
Anyway, any friendly Catholas, you can pick one, and they kind of absorb the energy, and they don't suffer the negative. However, they can then pass that back onto an enemy unit that's within 18 inches as well. So it's like they effectively suck up all of that bad juju and pass it on to someone else. However,
We're now calling this the French maneuver, correct?
we'll call it the French kiss. That's what it's going to be called. The French kiss is the new term for this. So the reason I love it, just to quickly put it through there, is that it's a support hero who should not be near the front lines, but needs to be wholly within, and wholly within 18 is quite a large bubble, but needs to be wholly within 18 of the unit when they use it, and also within 18 of an enemy unit to then kind of fling it back onto them. And I think that for me, that's really interesting because what it does is it binds 3 units together with this rule. It gives you a reason to keep this support hero closer to the front lines rather than just kind of putting them way in the back where they're always going to be safe. So there's a risk to reward there, and then you can build your strategy around making it happen. So that's why for me it was my number one, because I was like, great, you get a bonus, but then you get a penalty. Here's a way to negate that penalty, but there is a negative to using it. So I found it's interesting. It's gameplay between you and your opponent, but there's a couple of layers of risk to reward there. And that's why for me, it took out the number one spot, because I just think that is a really well-designed kind of 1-2 punch of rules. And that's why it's my number one. So chat, James, go for your life. I just go for it.
You seem too open for it today. It's more fun when you're not. I'll leave
Okay.
you.
I'm actually just really excited about whenever we do live coverage again, and the world opens up. Anytime that happens on the stream, I can't wait to be like, so he's just French kissed that unit? And it's just like, and everyone's going to be like, what does that mean? And I'll be like, well, they've just bravely debuffed them and they've run away. Like, maybe it's a little on the nose, but it's perfect. And thank you for creating a meme for me to talk about. I really enjoyed that. That's great. Nathan, what are your thoughts?
Too many elves and rats on the stream at the moment. Little bastards.
I think every rule of Nathan so far has been destruction. So is rule 5 destruction?
Well, they were general ones, and then he's just honing in on grots as much as he can.
Yeah. Well, I've
okay.
used
How
the
good are
grots as
grots?
examples because they are fantastic
They are
as
the
an
best.
example. We should all live up to that example.
Yeah, I like the bravery thing as well. I think it's fun. I think it's also pretty thematic, and we oftentimes don't get enough bravery kind of like debuff stuff. I like do I like the flayers? They're much more scared, so it does mortal wounds more. I'm not too excited about that, but I do like dropping bravery on stuff. I think it's a fun, interesting, cool mechanic. People are more spooked. I think that's really interesting as well. I like that the weepy lady makes some more weepy boys. It's it's basically Paramore. I know that she was too upbeat. I'm trying to think of some emo singer that makes everyone else eat. Oh,
The guy from the Rasmus.
No, because it's a lady who's the Calathar, isn't it? It's
Yeah, but guy from the Rasmus.
it'll
Might
come
be
back to me.
Star
Demi
Wars.
Lovato, nailed it. Demi Lovato, that's who's singing. Nathan, what's your fifth one?
So mine were in no particular order, but I'm glad I saved this one for now because of the last two. So my fifth one is Gotrek Gurnison. All of him.
All of it. Nipples to bum.
How
Yeah.
much
Yeah,
do
so,
we
yeah.
think that Darren
He's
just
great.
texted?
He is great. Even before the destruction of the world that was, he was a legendary monster slayer of his age, and now armed with the legendary axe Zangrom Tharaz, and bearing the master rune of Crag Blackhammer, he has become a veritable demigod of battle. So yeah, he's great. I like the way that they've given him rules that are all part of the little story that they released at the same time, with being the avatar of Grimnir, with Crag Blackhammer's master rune, and the shoulder plate of Idasa. So having listened to the audible book, the audio book that they released, Realm Slayer, and I just think it's a good set of rules. He's a proper beast, obviously, and you pay the points for it. And I think he's probably pointed perfectly, well, really, really well, and he's got his little movement for thing just to keep him in line. You can't teleport him or put him in bringy dinghies or over soul screen bridges. He's not up for any of that those shenanigans. He's just going to do it the way he's always done it, and when he does it well. So it's just.
Do you think he was realized well in the rules?
Yeah, the rules. Just the combination of the rules and the law and the character of it, and let him get hold of one of those weird elf ladies or that Thanquol. He's got a few things to say to Thanquol. So
yeah, mine butchered Nick Thompson's Thanquol. We played a narrative game in the middle of an actual game where we decided Godric and Thanquol could only walk at each other. Played a game of Warhammer around it.
That was not the law. Thanquol would always run away from Godric.
Walk them into each other. And I think it was literally the weekend he came out. I rolled 6 dice and was like, I'll call it 18 mortal wounds, and Nick was like, "Oh, shouldn't have played this game." Thanquol up and lost.
You should have played it according to the rule, proper law. Be running away as fast as he could and off the board.
I also love how Thanquol used to believe, with every fiber of his being, that Gotrek and Felix knew who he was. And like they were there to mess him up. And then when it actually came to it, and he's like, "Wait, no, you know me," and they're like he was then offended that they had no idea who he was. He's like, "So you're telling me that you've been messing up my life for however many years, and you actually don't know who I am?"
Yeah, that's great. In one of the stories, when Thanquol realizes that he's turned up in the mortal realms, he's like, "Fuck! Not this bastard again!"
So as a special treat, and I do love it. So thanks for doing our 5th one, Nath. As a special treat, I have called in one of the members of the Age of Sigmar, Mr. Jacob Berry, has just called in to tell us what his favourite rule is in Age of Sigmar. Jacob. Can anyone hear that? Does it work? Oh, it didn't work.
I miss Jacob Berry. He's a gorgeous man.
I miss Jacob Berry too. He is gorgeous. I'm going to have to call him back. I'm sorry, Mr. Jacob Berry. But I would love to know what your favourite rule is in Age of Sigmar. Okay. Right, so I've got a few more to do, if everyone's okay with that. I'm going to set a scene for you now. Okay? Set a scene. Right?
Do it.
You're a Chaos Marauder. Yeah? You're a Chaos Marauder. You're with your 39 other... Okay, you get in your headspace.
I'm in the headspace. I'm just thinking of my 139 others that are with me.
Right, okay. Right. And you're running forward because a Chaos Lord behind you is like, "Go and get that sorceress on Black Dragon." And you're like, "Oh, we are going to murder her." Yeah? Even though she's flying, so that's a weird situation for us all to be in, but ignore that. Anyway, so we're running forward, yeah, and we're like, right, yep. Okay, right, and then the Chaos Sorcerer Lord's like, "Charge," yeah, and he's like, "And I'll charge with you," and you're like, "Of course you will, look at you, you're like blessed by a god, you're massive," yeah, and the Chaos Sorcerer Lord runs in as well, and then you mob this Black Dragon, yeah, and you're like, "Okay, sweet," and then the Chaos Sorcerer Lord's there as well, and you think there's no way he's going to die, and then all of a sudden, from nowhere, out of the Chaos Dragon's butt, not the Chaos Dragon, Black Dragon's butt, pops an assassin. And that is my favourite rule, right? It's units that are hidden inside units, yeah? Even though you know that they've got the assassin in the butt, or or whatever it might be. It's the assassin rule where you can keep one unit off the board that's hidden inside another unit. Very much like Nathan used to always like. He would always be like, "I wonder which one the Fanatics is in." Yeah, like right. But the inside rule is such a fun rule. Like, and And there's a nice bit of like fun counterplay, like which unit is like with assassins or with fanatics or whatever the situation. I know it's a bit different with fanatics. With fanatics now, do you have to announce, Nathan, that there are 10 in that unit, or is it still like a secret?
No, it's still a secret. You don't say which one it is. Obviously, you write it down, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I just think the inside rule is just a super fun rule. Even though assassins aren't particularly good, and fanatics like were different, maybe better, different. Let's at least just say that. I still think that there's loads of room that they could do to have stuff inside stuff. I think that would be a fun thing. And
Stuff
yeah,
inside
Inside
boats.
boats.
huh? Bird goats inside other goats. Yeah.
Goats inside goats. Boats inside boats. Boats in bottles in boats.
Boats in bottles in boats. Exactly.
You are right. Stuff in stuff is fun. Let's just keep putting stuff in stuff.
Yeah, stuff in stuff, but not stuff in buildings in boats, or boats in buildings in stuff. Yeah, none of that. None of that. So, do you want me to go through my list of my other ones, if you guys are okay with that?
Yeah.
So, I love stuff in stuff. Big fan of that. As I've talked about this time and again, but I can't ignore this. It's probably maybe my top one, is Ungol Raiders, but like specifically any pre-game move stuff. There was a Hos Arcanum Archeon list that did really well over the weekend, actually. I think it came second or third event. I mean, I did the show today and I've already forgotten, but you go back and watch that show. But that was super cool, and it was a pre-game move. Hos Arcanum allows you to have fly-ins each unit's pre-game move. Ungol Raiders can pre-game move. Untamed Beasts can pre-game move. There's a really cool battalion in OCR Bone Reapers for pre-game move, and I think it's really fun. Like, it puts a lot of pressure on the board. I like that idea that they're like scouting units. I'm big into skirmish stuff anyway, not the game. Like the concept of skirmish. Do you know much about like classic like picket / lines in like old battle lines in, you know, kind of infantry days, like in line infantry days? There was always the mentalist skirmishers at the front who would just be like pot shotting at each other for like half a day while everyone was setting up. I just love that. I love that like lunatic front line, which I think would be really fun. Someone sent me a photo the other day of them playing meeting engagements with gargants, and I was sick on a kitten. It made me so angry. Nathan, there's a question in the... Yeah, Nathan, there's a question in the chat. Hey, Nathan, do you use netters for your Moonclan boss in your stabber blocks? Okay. Oh, we seem to have lost you, Nate. Hold on, sorry. I think I've lost your 1 second. I lost your audio again. Could you just say that again, please?
Yeah, definitely. I do have netter bosses in my stabber units.
Oh, yeah,
Can
okay,
you hear
good.
that?
Yeah, everyone can hear.
Yeah, especially when they've been given a special mushroom from the old snufflers. They've been sniffing the spores of the spore splatters, and the loon bosses stay telling them to stab stuff real good. Yeah, they can do some work. Those little lads.
We almost went a show without talking about netters.
Almost.
We can't go a show without talking about netters. They're the main highlight of the show now.
Okay, so other suggestions I have is Pistoliers. They have a really fun mechanic, which we don't see often. Hail of Bullets, which is they get to shoot after they've charged. So they charge in, and then they shoot again. And I think that's a really fun rule for... There aren't many light skirmish shooting units, really. Like old Illyrian Reavers and... there isn't many of those. So I think it's a really fun space for them to design some cavalry into, and they haven't done that yet. So again, that rule is they're a shooting unit on horseback, and they charge in, they get to shoot. I think that's really fun. I think that's a super cool rule. And then I'll double that up with another cavalry unit, again, in Hex Wraiths, in that when they move over you, you get to roll a number of dice for models in the unit, and they do some mortal wounds, which I also think is super, super fun. Like, I don't think it's very strong at all, but I just love that it's super, like, it makes me think of Lord of the Rings, the cavalry, like, you know, those ghosts just, like, piling through stuff, and you're just taking some mortal wounds. But both of those...
It's like squig hoppers do that as well. They kick you in the head as they hop over your head.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm really into that. So I think they could do stuff more. I liked impact hits, like you did Crushing Bulk earlier, Dan. I think that there's something in the cavalry moving, doing stuff, you know, like some sort of representation of that.
I'm going to talk about elves again, but it's like what they did with the Realm Lords, with their cavalry doing more damage against one wound things, which makes sense. If you've got a bunch of like lancers and you're riding through infantry, you 100% should be smashing through them.
Screaming death.
Screaming death?
Okay, Lord of the Rings. And the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, right. I thought you meant like that was the name of the rule. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not. But I could be confused.
Okay, old boys. Right. So then another one I like, which I would like to see them do more with this sort of rule, is the Hellblaster Volley Gun. Hellblaster Volley Gun is where you get to load up 1 barrel, 2 barrels, or 3 barrels. So you've got a choice there. So there's a choice element for you. And then if you roll any, I think if you roll any doubles, then the entire gun jams and you can't fire at all. But then you get either 1d6, 2d6, or 3d6 shots. I think that's actually like an underrated rule. Like it's not a particularly strong gun. It doesn't see a lot of like match play, but it's just a fun rule and like again like really on theme, which I think is really nice. And I'd like to see them explore stuff like that a little bit more as well. Where you know like I'm going to try and there's a statistical like average that people do, and then there's a couple of wild-eyed lunatics who are always just going for like max 3 barrels and just having a great time. So I like that. I like rules like that because it leads to those moments of desperation where you're just like, I need this, and it probably won't work, but if it does, this will get me back in the game, or this will put me ahead, or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, I can't play it safe. You know, like where sometimes I've played so many games where I'm like, it's coming down to the priority roll. I'm like, I just have to go for it. I have to go like 10 sheets to the wind and just risk it for the biscuit and hope that this plays out right. And then when it doesn't, you're like, damn. But those times where it does, you're like, and I'm back in the game. Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
thrilling.
Yeah. And if you just took 4 of them and just went nuts straight away, you're just like, I'm just doing it. Yeah.
Turn 1, Soul Scream Bridge, just unload all the barrels.
Yeah, just hope for the best. Anyway, I like that. I think that's really, really good. Again, the risk versus reward in my hands, which I think is interesting. And then other ones, I'll go through them like quick-ish. But I love Horticulate Slimmux, who is the Gardener of Nurgle on the Slug. Incredible model anyway, but he's got an command ability where once per game he can plant a feculent Gnarlmaw, because if you know much about the kind of the narrative for Nurgle, it's to do with gardening, and they garden diseases, basically. They're gardeners who spread disease through gardening. It's hilarious, and it makes me think of like allotments in England, and it makes me think of like just working class lads working on their allotment, but somehow spreading the plague. So I guess it's a lot like Weatherspoons in that. And just a big fan. And then how bad are English allotments? It's pretty much spot on, I reckon. James, is that a good description of an English allotment?
Yeah, maybe. Some are really pretty. Some are derelict. So Nurgle's probably the derelict one.
Yeah, okay.
Wood elves are probably the good ones, but they're dead, so there's not many left.
Yeah, but there's a battalion you can take with Horticulate Slimmux where instead of just once per battle placing down a feculent Gnarlmaw, he can do it every turn, anytime you spend a CP. So you can just keep planting loads of feculent Gnarlmaws, which is super cute, and I love that, and I think it's really fun and thematic, and I really like it. And I wish Sylvaneth had something that was even remotely as good, but obviously they've got terrible rules, and it's really sad. So then, love that. I think that's great. Glotkin has got a spell. Glotkin does, it probably seems more competitive play now, but he's got a spell called Fleshy Abundance, which is just the best. Like, it's cast on a 7, and it basically just gives a Nurgle unit +1 wound on each model. So if you've only got 1 wound models, they're all now 2 wound models, which is just chunky. I just love that rule. I think that's really fun. swelling them up. Like, it's really hard to cast. You don't get any bonuses. I guess if it was super easy to do, it'd be pretty broke, to be honest. Because it's one of those like out there spells, which is just.
Oh, but when they get it off on like a big block of marauders or something like that, it just. Or the one for me is plague bearers. When you have 30 plague bearers that your minuses to hit, and now they're all 2 wounds, just a small part of my insides dies.
Yeah, it's just awful. But I like it. I like the fleshy. I like the idea of, because Nurgle you think of growing anyway, don't you, and kind of like swelling. And so it works quite well for me. I like that. And again, it's unique. You rarely see a rule like that at all. Then, James, just to double up with Morathi, I like the Iron Heart of Cain. Now, I know some people don't like this rule, but I really, really like this rule, which is where she can only take 3 wounds per player turn.
Yep.
She also can't be healed because of that. So, Dan, you got a face about this one. You're not a fan?
Look, I you know what? I make the face. I make a face not because I don't like it, but because I'm on the fence. So you know what? Maybe that means I don't mind it, but it's mostly that I have come across times where that can be a crutch. It's like, well, you can't kill her this turn, so shebang-a-bang. Like you can poorly play and know that model survives until a certain point in time, which I guess you could then make the argument that really, if you're playing against it, you should be ready for it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess what I should say is I actually do like it as a rule, because I think it is really interesting. It's a bit like Gotrek being on the table but not being able to move. Mm-hmm. Like I do like not being able to teleport or do anything in that regard. But I guess I just don't like that it takes a little bit of the thought process that you have to have out of protecting a character.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what I like about that particular rule is what it does when you do coverage and when you see games played against each other. It's just a puzzle piece you've got to watch someone kind of unpick. I've played against it a couple of times. I found it frustrating because you just take that last damn wound. But I think that's also kind of like, it's a momentous thing when you kill her. They're transitioning some of those rules into 40k at the minute as well, where some characters or some units are only able to take a certain amount of wounds. I actually think that's again another big positive. I think that like there's a thing where, like with Gotrek, for instance, where he's arguably like too survivable. Nathan, apologies.
Yeah.
Like Nathan, can we hear you?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Just checking. Because it's kind of broke a bit, but it's fine. Yeah, like where Gotreks are like almost too survivable, and then so you kind of, I think, want in some situations characters that can survive a bit, if that makes sense. Just to kind of like, it's a bit sad that the goddess of life can just get nuked in like half a turn.
But she's 3 points now, right?
She deserves it.
That's true.
I love just how quickly this show turns on Alariel at any given point in time.
I'm for her. I'm pro her. Like, she should be 0 points, and then we're all pro
I think
her.
the worst bit about that is she's a beautiful model that you never see now.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, but not onto sad rules. So I like the Iron Heart of Cain, and I feel like Alariel should at least have something similar, right? Or like, you know, you kill it. Like, she should have something. I don't know if you guys, or you probably guys don't. Like, James, I know you play League of Legends. You know Anivia, when you kill Anivia and she turns into an egg?
Yeah. Give her the 5-up Phoenix rule. Got a life. 5 up, 4 up, she's back.
Yeah, something like that. I like the idea that she turns into like a seedling for a turn, or like she survives. Yeah, she survives until the end of the turn as a seedling. Like, you know, put a marker down, and then like you bring her back the turn after. I think that's fun. But
or if they're like she turned into Baby Groot, and then as an opponent you have like a turn to kill that seedling before she reblooms into who she is. That'd be a really interesting thing where you're like, oh god, pressure's on now, otherwise I have to deal with an entire Alariel, and it creates another game inside the game. Yeah,
right. That's cool. Okay, like they just just give her a full-grown rebirth, says Aaron over on YouTube. I kind of 2+ rebirth. I think a lot of us seem very pro that, so that's fun. I think that's a nice idea.
I'm really excited to kill her twice. Because, you know, like, that's it. I just be like, killing her once, not usually satisfying enough. Give me another swing.
Yeah. So then, I'll rifle through some of these. 2 endless spells that I love. Soul Snare Shackles. Love Shackles. It's just a me thing. There's not a mechanics thing that I particularly like about it. I just like it. Just some chains on the ground that make you slow. I've always loved it since it got brought out. I don't have a reason for it. I'm just throwing it out there that I love it. I love making people slow. It's fun. But then the endless spell that I rate the most, like James's, is the Burning Sigil of Tzeentch, which again never gets any play, but I feel like it's the most thematic piece. So it's just what it does is it affects any unit within 12 inches or a unit within 12 inches, and you roll a dice, and it has a random effect. And there's a whole bunch of really, really fun ones. Go check it out on the app. But it's just weird because half of them are good and half of them are bad. So you kind of run your army towards it thinking, I'll have the good half. And you hope that their army's within half range of it, like within 12 inches, so they get the bad ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you end up in this fun. I just think it's fun because it's Tzeentchian. Like it works really. It's not like the most effective endless spell, but it really is on theme. And again, I like that they've put like the risk reward thing in there. I think that's fun. Okay, I'll just do 2 last ones, and then I promise that we'll be done. So, Gryph-hounds, and their ability to do a bark and then do a shooting attack. Love that ability.
Yeah. Yeah, they're cute.
Yeah, we need to see more of that, really.
Yeah. Do you want to see more sort of like anti-deep strike mechanics, Dave?
Well, or more Gryph-hounds, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
Gryph-hounds in every army.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Nathan?
Yeah, I wish I could have Gryph-hounds in my Grot army. That'd be great. Not that they've got guns, so it would be useless, actually. No, I don't want them. But yeah, I don't understand why you don't see more of them in cities lists and Stormcast lists. My Tempest I've got one of the Stormcast characters that comes with the Gryph-hound. I've forgotten which one it is, but yeah, I definitely would like to get him painted up and get him allied in, just so I've got that Gryph-hound in there.
To do the barking shot. If you guys don't know what that is, basically, if anything lands within, I think it's within 10 inches of a Gryph-hound, or within a certain range of a Gryph-hound, they get to roll a dice or 2d6, and anything within that range that heard the yelp of their bark gets to do a shooting attack against the unit that's just turned up. It's cool. It's really cool. It's really cool, and it wouldn't be like I wouldn't mind seeing little units like that given to other armies. You know, like a particularly keen-eyed grot or a very sneaky and big-eyed rat. You know, like just something like that. Who's just like a warner who waves a flag, or like 4+, you wave your flag, and then everyone sees it, and then he shoots at I just think that's fun. Yeah, light the fires of Gondor. Huh?
The thing that I like is it means that as a player as well, when you're dropping things in, you're planning about where they're going. It's not just a foregone conclusion because you're suddenly creating like an alert system. It's a text message alert system for danger.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that that's a super cool rule. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the OG of cool rules, although I would love obviously to include the Starseer in here, RIP, and also Wrathmonger's RIP, is Scar Bloodwrath, who's Darren's all in love with Scar Bloodwrath at the minute, but he's unkillable basically. He dies, but he can just randomly keep coming back at different points in the game, and that is a super fun mechanic. He's also like pretty good at clearing hordes or something, but I do like that. I wouldn't want to see that all the time. Maybe it's nice that it's only locked into his war scroll, but I think that that's a fun thing, right?
Yeah, and it's also one of those things when you're playing against him as well, I guess, where you're like, is he coming back this turn? Is he not? Like, it keeps you on your toes just as much as it does for your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. You're constantly like, oh, well, what if he just resurrects from this pool of blood in a moment and runs at us? Like, that's pretty terrifying. But that's my list. That's me done. Yeah. I'm out. That's not to say that there aren't loads of other good rules, but these are just my favourite rules. Okay, Dan, Nathan, James, you have to pick someone else's rule that's your favourite. So not your favourite rule, someone else's of the other three's favourite rule, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you get one choice. And Twitch chat, you all get to choose one as well.
Can I have a runner-up? I'd really like a runner-up.
You're allowed a runner-up.
Okay.
You're allowed a runner-up. Yeah.
I'd like a runner-up. I've
Okay.
got mine. I'm ready.
Go for it, Dan. You go if you're ready.
Okay, so my runner-up is the goat shovel burning party. I forgot about that rule, and as soon as you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's such a cool one. It's just really thematic. It's exactly about them, and I just see them all dancing around and being like, and then the dude just rocks up and slits someone's throat, and they're like, that probably won't happen to me. That was just Jimmy. Sucks to be Jimmy. And then they all just keep going. And then eventually, like, a big monster just screams out of the jungle, and they're like, oh yeah, Jimmy, you did it. So that one for me is my runner-up because it's cool, it's thematic, and honestly, I think the Herdstone is one of my favorite pieces of faction terrain. Shame about the army that it's in, though. But my number one is going to be like Gotrek walking everywhere. Just that dogged, like because he's a powerhouse, and all the rest of his rules make him amazing. But then the fact that he's just like, nah, buggier, all your magic, all your tricks, all your things that you're gonna. I mean, I guess the cogs speed him up a little bit, but he's like, bugger the rest of you. I'm doing this myself, and I dig that. I think that's a really, really cool rule because when you surround it with everything else, the fact that he's just super stubborn and intractable, and he's just marching towards whatever he's killing next. Oh. It creates a song in my heart. And so yeah, I like it. It's a good rule. It's themey, but it does add a little element of balance too. So people can't, like, Gotrek wouldn't be a tricky surprise, here I am, stab you kind of thing. He is like from across the battlefield, he screams at you and he's like, I'm coming to kill you. And when I get there, you will be dead. And then no matter what happens, he's still just wandering along. He's like, no. You got, like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Whatever you think, this happens to you today. And then eventually it does. And so, yeah, that's going to be my winner. Winner, chicken dinner.
Okay, perfect. Can I go for mine? I'm going to go for mine.
Yeah.
Mine are both Nathan's, so sorry, lads. Not meaning to be rude. Although goat burning is obviously hilarious. A runner-up is going to be where you get the bonus abilities for how many are in a unit. I think actually, when Nathan actually compared Plague Bearers to the Grots, I was like, you could actually do loads with that. Like, they gain some sort of ability because they've got a big horde. Instead of just doing a points horde discount, there could be some mechanical rule, which is quite exciting. Yeah. I like that. And also it means I get to take away that synergy and that ability as well. I think that's good. I like that. And then my follow-up, my favourite one is, like Nathan said, is the Endless Spell. And I'm gonna lump it in with the aforementioned Priority Roll. Priority Roll, Endless Spell mechanic, all of that in there, like, makes the game, like, there's so much strategy and conversation and thought around that, and some super awesome interactions, which every special rule that we talked about today goes into. So I'm about that. So that's my number one. Nathan?
I should have listened more carefully, I think. I'm going to go with Irresistible Challenge, though. I do like the idea of a challenge, and I wish there was more chances of challenges. There was a thing, wasn't it, in 8th edition as well? You could challenge.
It's really cool.
Challenge out heroes. I do like that. I wish that rule was a little bit more widespread, actually. The Irresistible Challenge. But yeah, I like that one. And I've played against it. Obviously, I've not played with it, but yeah, it's cool. I'd like to see that bit more challenging between heroes.
Yeah, heroes throwing down.
Yeah,
that's what we're missing.
Okay. And then James.
So I have literally just been sat here in my head going through every rule, but I think, like, having talked about it, thought about what everyone said. Assassins coming out of dragons' bumholes. That's my winner.
Yes! Yes!
I think, like, that sold it to me. But I think, like, it's a cool rule, isn't it? When you're like, this unit's popping out. And I think the worst bit of that at the minute is probably most of the assassins aren't as good as you'd want them to be. But I almost like that, like, poof! Like, unit appears from another unit. Excellent. That's my choice. You just
have to artifact them up so that they can hold their own.
Mm-hmm. And as like MJ Pegasus said, they're actually the assassins.
No. amazing, but no.
Well done, MJ Pegasus. That's excellent. You've
good.
also created some. Oh no, an assassin. No one needs that.
Do they come from asses or do they murder asses? This is a question we need answers on.
I don't know. I honestly don't. Good. All right. Well, I enjoyed this today. Did you guys enjoy it?
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah. There are a few, obviously, that have come and gone. I mean, I would have liked to have said the hooded villain, but no longer with us.
I would have liked to have seen the Starseer and also the Wrathmongers. The Wrathmongers going is a crime. That was like so corn, and it works so well. That was awful. What about whispering into Manfred's ear?
Oh, no, it was the other one, wasn't it? It was the bat cape bloke.
Isn't that Manfred?
Wasn't it? You had to talk to and then talk back from Comrade Karstein, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or Vlad?
Yes.
What about the
Vlad.
one where you pretended to ride a horse and get tactical advice from it to get rerolls?
No, staring competition.
And there was an elf one where you had to
Staring
act more
competition.
pompous.
For the win. Unless you're wearing a hood. They win every time.
But I think this gives us some not hope that because I'm not unhopeful, but it does show that there are really interesting and fun rules in the game, and there could be more. I think one of the frustrations I have is because I know most of these. I didn't have to I just had to go and read the names. I knew the abilities. I just went and found what they were called. The game is full of these fun interactions. Like you said, challenges being more of a thing would be fun. And it's a shame sometimes, not to try and put a negative at the end of it, but it's a shame sometimes that they don't explore some of these things more. I'm hoping that they will in future releases. And we've seen some stuff even in the Lumineth book as an example, and the Tribes book, the Gargants book. Gargants can kick objectives. That's I don't think that's cool personally, but I think it's different at least. Whereas in Lumineth, if you hold hands and stand close to each other, you're scarier for some reason, which is
friendship is magic. Okay, so things holding hands are terrifying.
Did you say friendship?
Yeah, friendship.
Yes. French boats are terrifying.
So there's just loads more they can do, which is exciting because as new battle tomes come out, hopefully we see and there's probably stuff obviously we've not thought of, and also they've not thought of. So hopefully we see some of that stuff put into these new rules, which is very I'm personally excited for them. So that's good. All right, sweet. Now we're done with the actual subject of the show. We can just chat. This is
some mad chats.
It's like you've done the work. You can just chat away. That's it. Any questions from the chat?
Okay. What did we miss? I guess is there any big ones that the chat loved? That they're just you absolute potato sacks. Why didn't you say this silly thing?
There's quite a few on there. I like the Mega Boss ability as well, where as he kills stuff, he gets bigger and harder.
Oh, yeah, that's
tougher.
fun.
That's great. Blood Tithe is great.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yes.
think that the one that I actually would have loved to say that is gone, that I would have put up there is probably one of my top ones, would have been the old school way that the Seraphon summoned. I thought that was just inspired, to be completely honest, that they had to sacrifice something to get their summoning. I think that when you look at a lot of the other armies, like Tzeentch, they get summoning points for doing what Tzeentch want to do, right? Whereas that was an army that had to sacrifice an element of their gameplay to get summoning. And I just, where they had to not cast. So I really dug that as a rule, but it's gone now, so buggier.
Okay. In the chat, 666 from Engine of the Gods. I always put that into the new one because the new one's still just as good. Doubles attacks and everything else. I think that's great. 666 from Engine of the Gods being gone. Sinesh Mirror got so James, someone doubled up on Sinesh Mirror. That's Joe. Knowing the priority from Archeon the Three King. That's an ability that you've obviously got.
Longbeard's grumbling. Yeah, that's a good one. I always used to have. I loved in the hero phase actually grumbling about whatever it was. Gave me life.
Yes, and then there's Blood Tithe as well. That's one, which there was a lot of votes for Blood Tithe on Twitter. I'd like you to know. James, I know you're not going to be...
Boring.
Uh,
I'll admit, I quite like Blood Tithe. It's a cool mechanic.
wow, something nice said about Khorne on the show. Oh boy.
Stop the presses.
Yeah.
I'm still the worst god, but it's a decent rule.
Okay.
Bad God, good rule. Is that it?
Bad God, good rule?
Yeah,
God,
yeah,
good
that'll
rule.
do. Bad
Yeah.
god, good rule.
All right, sweet. Are you guys doing any hobby this week? What hobby are you going to get up to? Playing any games? Doing any hobby? Any chance there's any of that happening?
So I may be doing some hobby, but at the moment, so I know that we like sometimes they are the absolute devil, but I got very, very drunk on Amazon Prime Day. And
Nice.
then the morning after got an alert that I had placed 11 orders. And I only recall 2 of them.
Excellent.
So I decided, because I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just not going to know. Because I'm like, this is just going to be a fun little surprise. It's going to roll out, and I will have a bunch of exciting future presents. So I've gotten all but one of the notifications that they're on the way, and I'm just going to get some stuff. And I'm pretty sure like some of it was like paintbrushes, and I know for a fact that one of them was like materials that I was like, oh, this would be really cool for converting. But other than paintbrushes and those conversion materials, haven't the foggiest what I bought. So it's just going to be a fun adventure as boxes rock up, and I'm like, oh, this is what Drunk Dan wanted me to do with my hobby. So that's what I'm excited for. That's my week.
That's fun.
Is finding out what Drunk Dan committed me to. I feel like I bought Space Marines.
Oh,
I don't know why. I was very drunk. I cannot possibly put that into context. I was not good for a number of days.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I bought Space Marines. I don't even know the rules.
It's okay. Just
Find out.
roll some 2s and re-roll some 1s, and you'll probably be fine. Nath, you got any hobby coming up?
No, I've just finished the old troll hag. She's done now. So I've just got to finish her base.
Oh, baby.
To get that butt.
Yeah, nice.
And then breasts. So
It was the delicate caress of your voice on that word.
Breasts.
yes.
All right, write that down.
So yeah, I've got no games lined up. I'm going to be just carry on painting. I've got.
We're not allowed to, are we? We're not allowed unless you teach Anna. We're not allowed unless we play outside as well.
Yeah.
Currently, where me and Nathan are located, you're not allowed to meet each other. No meeting engagements allowed. Which is
that must be devastating for you.
That's the only good bit about it, to be honest. That's okay. But getting some hobby done, getting them armies done, so you can play on the tabletop. That's sweet news, Nath.
Yeah, so I've got a skidder strand. I'll probably paint up. I might see if I can make a bit of a scaffold for the back as well. I think I might have bits of the scaffold, so it could be a skidder strand or a war party Arachnarok. It'd be nice to have the options for that. And then I've got quite a few more dwarves to paint as well, actually. So yeah.
Okay, fun. James, what about you?
Well, so I'm also locked into a house with no ability to play, but I did fit a garden heater last week, so I still
Nice.
haven't tested it in the cold. So I might do that after the show to see if it is warm enough to play outside. That was the plan. So probably that, and then I have just been nattering about it in the chat. But obviously the weekend coming is the pre-order on the new Warcry box set.
Underpants.
Yeah, and I've been
Gargants.
Those undergargants.
Yeah.
big on Warcry, so I'm
You promised
keen on
those
that.
to us 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you did.
Hey, look, Good products take time. Those objective rings took me 6 months of work.
Well, I can't wait for the Undergargants, and they are going to impress us.
So I'm excited about that. And then
Wait,
just
you're
'cause
going to
I-
order the new Warcry?
With
I
G
think
for
so, yeah.
G-string.
So isn't the current conversation about the Warcry is that, as Zyd guy is saying in the chat, is that it's 33 more expensive than the first one and has less
Yep.
terrain and models?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
More for less.
and I agree. Like it's like everything they seem to have released recently seems like the price has jumped considerably.
Yes.
But it's such a good game, and I want to play it, so I'm going to end up buying it. So I'm either going to buy it when it comes out and get a decent discount from someone that isn't Games Workshop, or I'm going to wait 6 months, then realise I wanted it, and then have to buy it off some idiot who's selling it at 4 times the price because Games Workshop have stopped selling it.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
a tough
I think
catch-22.
that would be my thing. Also, just because I was looking at the releases, because I was noticing that earlier, I did notice in Diachasm, and I know we love the name of that.
Amazing name.
And I can't stand. I've never got into what is it?
Underworlds.
Underworlds. However, in that Slanesh warband, there's a new goat model.
There is a
Super
new goat
jealous.
model. There is a
He's
new goat model.
amazing.
What
She's
do you all
amazing.
think of the new slangors and sexy men?
The Slangors, literally, I think it's wicked. In fact, the Slanesh warband I think is really cool. Not so keen on the elf one.
Okay, fair enough. There's been a question in the chat. This is quite important. How many assassins can you get in a Diachasm? Are there any in there? Any assassins in that Diachasm, or is it free of assassins?
I think it's 3 of them.
Okay.
I mean, the one Slanesh girl with the spear maybe could be an assassin. She's got a long stick.
I think you're overthinking it. I believe it's a size question, not so much a model question. Yeah.
14 inches.
Because I put on Twitter, I think that we should start calling the Gargants pants the Diachasm, because that's, if you go in there, it's probably just a horror show. But I'd love to know what other models have a Diachasm and what it would be.
Nathan's playing
Ash's
a trauma
hat?
tag. Let's not talk about it. I don't think. Okay, interesting. I don't think I'm interested in the Warcry thing at all. It looks like it's a new box set with a bunch of printed. I'm not bothered. Is what I'm trying to say. If that, but I'm glad you are, James. I'm very excited for you, and I hope it works out, because there's like new Grand Alliance books, so you can just get one of every book, and you can play loads of different.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I just really like the game, so I couldn't give a damn about any of the Grand Alliance stuff. And I just think, like, the Chaos Warbands are cool. I've really enjoyed playing it as a game, especially, I think, like, Corona time. Like, if I can play in my garden, I can set that out on a bench, like a picnic bench I've got in the garden. You can play. You can just move your own models. There's only about 8. So I actually think, for me, like, one of the benefits is, like, having a box set in the house with more armies means actually I have enough for 4 people to play at the same time. So
I'm super interested as well to see when it all comes out, like all of the different bits and pieces, what the boxes are that they're releasing for the others. Like there's a KO one coming out, and I want to see, because some of those, when they came out the first time, had pretty decent discounts for the army that they were for the first time around. Like I remember I think there was a Stormcast one and a Grotz one and whatnot. So I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see what it ends up being.
You never know, Dan. You might have already ordered them.
Might have, actually. Complete honesty, I 100% could have.
Yeah. So okay, good. And I am. Okay, so you guys may or may not know that I did the Army Painter birthday stream on Friday night with Adam Bromwich. So he asked me to kind of do the tech stuff and host it. Scriver helped me out, so big shout out to Scrivs for helping me. That was fun, but we had loads of really famous painters on. Dunk was on, Pete the Wargamer. There was like a bunch of dudes who are like really good painters and are famous for being good painters. And then Adam from the Army Painter was asking them painting questions. And I was there just for jokes that wasn't like dick jokes. Like, it was really hard. And then a lady came on called Sword and Steel. She was super nice, and she was like, it's worth going back to watch. She just drags this. She goes, like I kind of like wrapped up. I was like, oh, what's it like making content? She was like, yeah. I was like, you know, she's like, it's really fun. I'm always enthusiastic. She's like, I'm really upbeat, and I was like, great. She goes, and I'm super excited because of this new Mega Gargant. And then she brought it out. Then she's like, and I've read the rules, and it's really, really good. And I was just like triggered, like honestly, but trying to be a really nice professional person at the same time. And the chat were like exploding, and they were having a really fun time. It was fun. Anyway, but it did get me to thinking I'd probably like to, and for my birthday, Nathan, gorgeous man he is, and a bunch of the guys in the Twitch chat all got me some nice new models for me to paint up. So I'd like to try and maybe like do a nice paint job. So I got a wet palette.
Whoa,
fancy!
Yeah, yeah, which is just actually
out.
made from baking tray stuff and a sponge. But I wanted to try and do like a decent paint job, and I haven't moved all my hobby stuff from the old studio to the T-Sports Arena yet, and I've got loads of other work to do, but I'd like to maybe pick a project and paint something, and maybe probably the thing Nathan got me, which is a Mace miniature Demon Prince dude. So I'm going to do some hobby this week. That's all I've got for you.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about, because then if I do their birthday thing next year, I don't want to be like, oh, have you tried blue? You know, maybe I can say other words.
Have you
I love it. Hey guys, I know I'm the new guy here, but the color blue. Thoughts?
Thoughts? Oh, anyway. All right, well, it's been a pleasure doing this with you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone in the Twitch chat who has joined us live. You guys are incredible. Or if you've joined us on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you might be, please leave some comments, like some things, subscribe. You can support us by joining our Patreon, which is how we're able to do this for a living. So thank you to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon. And you can listen to it as a podcast. And if you do, you're a hydro homie. And it means you stay hydrated all day long and make sure you top up on that water. Especially tough in the winter months because you forget to drink because you're not hot. So make sure you do keep drinking. Have you guys got any shout-outs you want to do before we head out today?
Just people with beards. You're better than people without beards, so keep having beards.
Agreed with that.
Fair enough.
However, almost Movember, and if you want to do Movember, you're a good guy for wanting to do it.
But if you want to do Decembeard or January, you're an even better person because you've got more beard.
Agreed. Nathan, anyone you want to shout out?
Nah, I can't think of anybody offhand. I'm looking forward to seeing the new underpants and the gargants.
Me
Those
too.
Very
G-string.
excited.
Me too. I'm also shouting out the undergargants. Let's get them done. Let's get them in the factory and let's get them done. James, any shout outs before we go?
Or just more broken promises about undergargants.
All the people that haven't harassed me about undergargant. Oh, that's no one. I've got no shout.
Twitch chat, and anyone who does any orders for the Wargamer merch store at any point over the next 6 months, please do include where are the undergargants in a message of some sort. Or tweet him at Powell106. Just tweet him and just be like, where's them undergargants? Just get on it. Please, thank you. You mighty
The more we
horde
bother
of-
him, the faster he'll do it. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, right?
We all want them. Undergargants on their head. That's what we do. Everyone look after yourselves. Stay healthy. We'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to join me tomorrow for the 40k Jason show. And tune in next week for some more Age of Sigmar goodness. See you guys soon. Have a nice day. Thank you to my co-hosts who are wonderful people. And they make doing this a pleasure. So I couldn't thank you three enough. Thank you so much. You guys have a nice day. We'll see you soon.